Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and I thank you for watching here on what is hopefully a wonderful Friday for you as we move on to the weekend in the summer. Nothing better in this world than that, is there? Well, maybe Christmas or something like that. But today we are going to have a Christmas-like day in this stable of things. Now, normally here we're pretty even-keeled. We keep our feet firmly on the ground. Don't let your head get up in the sky. Don't start dreaming too big, too large when it's unfounded. When you don't have a reason to believe a certain thing or something else, we're not trying to gas people up. But today I'm putting the pedal down to the floor. And I'm doing so not because I'm a guy that's going to be known for gaslighting this fan base, probably the opposite if you're really getting down to it, but because I believe it. Because I believe that the Seattle Seahawks have put together the right conditions for this team to take flight. The question is not whether or not it will happen. It's when it's going to happen. Today, tomorrow, this year, or the next. Hard to pin down exactly which way this one's going to roll out as far as the timing on it. The reason being, not because you haven't collected a great assembly of talent, but because of the fact that that talent is mostly very, very young, and you're waiting on it to develop. You're waiting on it to come forward. There's some other parts to this as well that need to come into this part and all cook together to bake this cake right. But the timing is very close. We are right there on the edge, and it could happen this season. A championship-type run could occur. So I'm going to build my case today. I'm going to build it hopefully a little steady, slow, get it through end to end to show you. And yes, it would take kind of a cumulative of all this, or nearly all of this, for this team to take flight. Yeah, I know the national perspective is telling you this team's not going to be particularly good. Yeah, I know there's even people that are within our division that will look at this team and go, you guys are probably fourth. You know, the Cardinals are going to come through that extra step. This year, finally Kyler. All the pundits and analysts and talking heads telling you that your team ain't going to be nothing. But I got to push back on that one. For what has this team been? Has it been bad? Yes, you moved on from a coach a year ago, but has it been bad? 3 straight seasons this team has won and had a winning record. That's notable. That's no small thing. One of those years getting into the playoffs, and for a half, as you got in the playoffs with that very young team, that beat-up team, that very thin, lean team, you had that Niner team really, really sweating into that second half, didn't you? Where they were finally able to kind of separate from you at that point. But this is 3 straight seasons of winning years. This is 2 straight years of the same here with this. And so this is not a team that's got to be pulling itself up by the bootstraps from the floor after a drunken night out, trying to pad down their hair and put their shirt back on. We're standing strong. We're rolling. We're just looking to ignite to that next step. So first and foremost, let's start before we get to the details of this. This team is not far away. I don't give a rip about Vegas coming in with a 7.5 win total outlook for this football team. They've been better than that. And Vegas got it wrong last year too. So just because there's a lot of people saying a certain thing doesn't make it right. History has certainly shown us to be true in a lot of different areas of things, but certainly that can be true in football. Narratives get set, narratives get entrenched, and it's very hard to sometimes pull them out until you just fully disprove them across the board. So let's get into today. Let's go into what I'm going to call my 16 points of light, 16 conditions that need to be met in order for your Seattle Seahawks to find their way back to the Super Bowl. I know it's improbable, but it's not impossible. Got to dream, my fellow fans. Got to dream sometimes. And I wouldn't dream falsely. I wouldn't be putting this together if I didn't think that we had this talent in-house for this to get the job done. But these things are going to need to occur if you're going to get there. So let's go through them bit by bit. Let me build my case to you, the jurors of Seattle. I present to you, and worldwide, those fans outside of that, I present to you my case for how our Seattle Seahawks can get their happy ass back into the Super Bowl. And it starts first and foremost with the quarterback position, because you ain't getting far if this guy ain't getting much done, or he's going to fit to how he looked earlier in his career. Sam Darnold. You need Sam Darnold this year to be on repeat. Now, some people will say, well, Sam Darnold had a really good year last year, and he certainly revitalized his career, reclaimed his career. Yeah, that's a resurgence, all that good stuff, not a bust anymore. But then didn't he fade at the end of the year? So why would we want that on repeat? The reason being is that, yeah, by the end of the year, it started to get a bit dicey there for Sam and the boys out there in Minnesota, but it really was an extension more on the back of just how much stuff was collapsing on that offensive line. And that's going to be a key. That's going to be one of my points of light that we're going to mention here today. So this is one of those points where we go, look, if Sam remains on repeat from what he was throughout the year, he'll be fine. The team would be fine. You could go on a championship run. If your offensive line falls apart or fits to what is recent Seattle Seahawks historical norms, sure, he's going to maybe have some collapsible moments in there. It's going to maybe see the legs get kicked out at that point in time. But we're going to address that point for later. Right now, we're going to address the point of what Sam can control, which is his performance and how good he is on the football field. He's had that time a lot like Geno has had from that first stop as being a bust with the New York Jets to get some time to gather his legs, to get figured out what he needs to do, to get to a really good organization in a really good spot. Part of Sam coming here and Seattle choosing it is I'm going to a really good landing spot that's going to set me up for success. I'm going to have a really good offense that's going to set me up for success, that's going to lean into what I do well. And another big narrative that's out there with Sam, of course, is that he did just have this grade A pass protection last year, which he did not. NFL stacking, the stat tracker out there would say that he had more pressures throughout the course of the season in totality than Geno Smith did. Now, some Seahawks fans would argue against that, but at the very least, he was very close to where Geno was with that, and of course, only 2 less sacks than Geno Smith. And so this is where we come back to, you don't have to have it perfect for him. You don't have to have the pocket pristine for him. It's just that you're going to get the best version of Sam Darnold if you can create those conditions more often than not. And if he can repeat the performance that he brought to play last year, yet the offensive line can maintain a steadiness. That was a team that won 14 games last year with the offensive line collapsing through the back half of the schedule. They lost Darisaw. What did they lose? Week 10? Their starting left tackle, their blindside tackle was out. And the interior of their offensive line was so bad that they took both of the Colts starting 2 offensive linemen this year in free agency to try to repair that side of it. Say nothing of Brian O'Neill going out in that Los Angeles Rams playoff game. Don't know if that's going to occur again, but if you can keep it clean up front, he will get the job done. I don't think that was a flash in the pan season. I don't think it was the Minnesota Vikings head coach that was making that all happen. I don't think it was just because he got to throw to Justin Jefferson. Those things aided him. But this has been the hard work of Sam Darnold. This is him continuing to be with Jesse Palmer every offseason and working on his trade and understanding at this position, much like we saw with Geno Smith and many other quarterbacks on this, is it takes time. It takes time to master this position. And some guys have some really nice natural gifts and some natural understanding of how to play the position right out the gate to where they can tap into their gifts very quickly when they walk onto the scene. Other guys have those abilities. It just takes them a little bit longer to learn how to use them right. It's a very, very difficult, let's not forget, the hardest position to play in all of football, in my opinion. So Sam Darnold on repeat, that's number one where we start out for how we're going to begin this off. He doesn't have to go beyond what he did last year. He's just got to do a repeat performance of what he did last season. Next up, we've got the running game. This is going to be a foundational point of this as well that has got to be a necessity. And sometimes it's been a little bit optional in recent years. And that is the running game. The running game's got to roll this year. You've got to be one of the top flight teams in the NFL at running the football. There's got to be balance between the passing and the running attack as far as the volume, and that you're trying to get as close to balanced as you possibly can. If you're running the ball, it's going to tend to mean that you're not behind in football games, but yet you're probably ahead in football games. We know they have a bevy of talent in that backfield of capable guys. We know as well these guys have been restricted at times over the past couple of years by both a lack of dynamic run blocking and a lack of a really good scheme to really challenge defenses, specifically not allowing defenses to know what's coming prior to the snap. I know that would seem pretty rudimentary as far as NFL people go, as far as, not showing your hand on that. But I think you'd be surprised if we were, let's say, in the buildings of some of the oppositions preparing for the Seahawks by how often they were aware of where the ball was going. Outside zone, you've got a couple backs that should be able to do this very, very, very well, that have a background in doing this, even if going back to college, if you have to look at them doing that. You've added Damian Martinez into the flux as well to hopefully give you a little bit more of a short yardage guy, because I think the 3 guys you had here in McIntosh, Walker, and Charbonnet were all good in their own way. But I think you didn't have a pure, real short yardage back in the trio of those guys. Now you add in here with Martinez, that 4th back, who probably gives you that extra skill you just didn't have. And then you have a guy like Jalen Milroe who will get some carries as well to really cap on top of that running game. Some of the best running games you're going to see, rushing attacks in the NFL you're going to see are going to be buoyed by having a quarterback who's going to get some yards himself on the ground from time to time. But these guys have got to get the job done. We need 4.5 yards a carry on these guys down the line, somewhere in that neighborhood of things. And if they're doing that and you can lean on that, you're remaining balanced offensively. You're keeping the volume of the passing attempts down. You're allowing then Sam to be in structure a lot of times because now it's a lot of play action, and that's where he can be really, really good. When you give him a really great structure play and you design it right as an OC, he can really hurt defenses in that way. But you got to start with the ground game. It's a little bit like an extension of the Carolina Panther game from a couple of years ago, where Carolina came into Seattle, beat us in our own house with Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback. And they did so just running the ball with Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard, and then letting Sam kind of work through with like 27 attempts on the day. That would be our kind of ideal for this upcoming season, but it does mean you got to run the ball and run the ball well and be efficient at it. Control the clock. This one is one that goes hand in hand with run the ball. And hopefully you will see in all of these that I'm presenting that there's an interconnectedness to them. You got to run the ball. You got to control the clock. Why do you got to control the clock? Because I believe that this team's going to lead with this defense if it's going to be its most successful version of itself. They've got to be the guys that kind of carry this load, I believe. So you've got to protect your defense. And that means having some long sustained drives and being able to keep them off the field. Shorten down the game, narrow the number of possessions. Controlling the clock is also going to be beneficial at times with the new kickoff rule. And maybe sometimes starting out at the 35 and you get a couple first downs and you get yourself a field goal, and as an offense, you're just kind of chipping away at it like that all game, and you come away and you go, at the end of the game, wow, we got 25 points. Got a touchdown here, touchdown there, some field goals, consistently moving the ball. Defense nice and fresh. And if you're going to get to the end of the season in a championship team, that team can't be tapped out by the end of the season on the defensive side of the ball. They couldn't have been asked to have to play, for instance, remember a couple of years ago, our Seattle Seahawks compared to the 49ers at the end of the year, our defense had played a collective game and a half more than the San Francisco 49ers defense had played that season. This is 2 years ago, by the number of snaps, the extra snaps that defense had to rock. Partly because it was the bend but don't break and a lot of first downs allowed, and part of the offensive ineptitude that caused that. But you want to not be at that end at the end of the season if you're going to make a championship run, so that you actually have a pretty fresh defense by the end of the season. And the good part here, you're returning all starters back into play. You've got really valuable backups you're bringing in. DeMarcus Lawrence coming in, Nick Emawari. Of course, injuries are going to happen here and there that you've got to have to sustain around that, but you've done a good job of really beefing up both having the front line and then having some good depth in here to be able to sustain. But controlling the clock is going to be at the forefront of this and not making that defense live on the football field if they're going to be a big part of what carries the day. Allowing them to be fresh and fly around and really get after it is the ideal here. So controlling the clock game in and game out is going to be very important. I know it is for all teams, but I think for us more than any other team versus, let's say, a team that was more about hitting big plays down the field. I don't know if I'd go that controlling the clock is necessarily as fundamental to that team. If you're a team that was led more heavily by your offense than your defense, I don't know if I'd be as much in the footing of saying you got to have to control the clock. It has to happen in this game. So it's the nature of the way you have designed this particular team that it's really going to be important this year that the Hawks are every game coming out of it and you're going, they won that battle. They won the time of possession battle again, and again. Next up, the offensive line becomes mid. Wait, you didn't say good, Brandon. Yeah, no, I said mid. That's right. That's absolutely right. You need an offensive line that can get to the place of being mid because of the fact that this offensive line has been around league worst over the past couple of years. So you need a line that can start to get up back to a place where it's in just a functional area of things. And it doesn't have to be dominant in order to do that. You just got to be league average. And if you're league average, you will have jumped light years forward from where this offensive line has been. Because when it's been league worst, it's been both league worst with anything to hang its hat on. It can neither pass protect really well, and it can neither really run block particularly well. It neither has a very dynamic scheme it can lean on to help out the offensive lineman, putting him in on islands. It's been bad all the way around over the past couple of years. Talent's also another part of it that you needed to increase. But this is that part that I led with at the front of this show, that you're not starting from a spot of picking yourself up off the floor. You're already walking. You're already at a trot. You're almost ready to run. And what I mean by that is that you've already drafted your franchise left tackle 3 years ago as a top 10 pick. You've got Abraham Lucas, who seems to be now healthy and ready to go, who himself plays like a first-round pick when he is healthy. You've had Haynes that you hope that the second-year development comes forward with him, and Zabel, and a couple of centers that you feel pretty good about. You're in a position that's a lot better than you've been in prior years when you've tried out guys like Gabe Jackson at 37 years old. He wasn't that old, I know, but he felt like he was that old by how he moved. And you just kept trying to throw out guys out on the last legs, barely holding on, where there was no future. There was no continuity to be had between those guys. And hopefully now you're able to get a little bit of that. And if they can get to mid-status, I think that this is an offense that's then carrying their end of the load here. Yeah, the defense is going to have to be like, if you and your buddy are carrying up on the steps and one of you've got to be on the low end, if you're carrying like a big old dresser or something, yeah, the defense is going to be on the low end of the steps having to carry the brunt of the load. But the offense still has to do their part and guide this thing through and hold up the top side. It's a little bit lighter up there, but you still got to hold something up there. You can't just put it up all on the guy on the bottom of the stairs. He's going to fall down the stairs, break his neck, and then you got to make a tough call to his mom. Nobody wants to be doing that. So hold up your end of the bargain. Be a mid offensive line. Great if you're dominant. Great if you're good. But just be mid. Right there. Right there. That's a sweet spot. Tight end, do-si-do. Get on down with your tight end do, with your do-si-do on a tight end hold. Hit it down to do-si-do with a do-do-dan attached do. Tight end do-si-do. What do you mean by that, Brandon? I mean that you have assembled a nice little collection of tight ends here. You've got your inline blocker in A.J. Barner, who can do some catching. You can do some pass protect and chip blocking, then leak you out. You've got Noah Fant, a former first-round talent who still just teases so much more. There's something else. There's just something else more there. And then you've got the freak show, Elijah Arroyo. Is he a tight end? Is he an H-back? Is he an X? We'll find out this season, but you do have a good collection of talent now at this tight end position. Dare I say, maybe the deepest, strongest collection of talent at the tight end position that you've had here, perhaps in Seattle Seahawks history. And this is going to be very important beyond just them being good at what they do. You have guys that are capable, at least in Fan, is not a dominant blocker, but a capable blocker. Barner, who can be I think, top 10 tight end block tight end in the sport this year for sure. And Arroyo is at least a willing guy. We'll see how good he can be with it. And again, it kind of depends on how they're going to really use him and align him a little bit. But this is also going to be an extension, of course, of the fact that 2 tight end sets, 12 personnel set a record last year. You saw more 12 personnel than we had seen at any time in recent years. You were over 20% on average throughout the league in 12 personnel situations, every team in and team out. And then that kind of blew away the former marks. Also, a very high register of 21 personnel, 13 personnel. So when you're rocking the I formation with the fullback and just 2 wide receivers, or when you're running out 3 tight ends at one point in time, we saw an uptick in all of that as well. So yes, you have the talent there, the guys to do it. You have an offensive scheme that's well suited to get really good productivity out of the tight end position. You can see a lot of West Coast offenses. We can go through the years on this where tight ends have been very good and have found a lot of good yards in this. In fact, maybe the best tight end receiving season in tight end history you've got here, I think, is maybe Jeremy Stevens, who's operating in the West Coast offense, I believe, when he did that in that year that he did have a really good year, like 700 yards or something, I think, in one of his seasons. So it's a combination of both how good they are, the scheme that can get this out of these tight ends, and then also the fact that the NFL direction right now is going to 12 personnel. And it's doing that, or like I say, 21 personnel or 3 tight ends looks. The reason it's doing that is it's trying to catch defenses with their pants down when it comes to them in nickel, because defenses have slid more into nickel than ever before over the last 5 to 6 years in order to try to counter the passing attack. And it's kind of worked. It's actually been pretty effective. And so what now this has forced offenses to do is to have to hammer the running game, and especially hammer the running game up through the A and the B gaps, but most especially attack that nickel corner, who now is a guy in there to be there to cover. Maybe he's about 5'9" and 175 pounds soaking wet. A guy you can kind of block, let's say, with a 6'4", 6'5" tight end that's 240. That turns into a mismatch real quick, doesn't it? So you challenge these teams that don't always have that third linebacker that they can call upon to go to base when you bring out the 2 tight end looks. This is the chess match that's really existing this upcoming season between offenses and defenses in the NFL. How do you want to counter this defense? Do you want to go nickel with us? Do you want to trust that nickel cornerback that can get off the tight end block and still go make the tackle? Or do you think he's going to get sealed up? Say nothing of if your other cornerbacks don't tackle particularly well either. If your outside guys suck, and then your nickel sucks, and we rock 12 personnel, ooh, it's going to be a long day at the office with stopping the run for you, isn't it? Especially if we're running outside zone to go right at the place where you have weakness in that tackling aspect of things. We'll get away from that defensive line. We'll just get out here to the edges and go after those guys out there that are weak. So this is really a very important part of this team this year too as well, both that you're getting production, that you're able to be dominant in 12 personnel looks, that you set the stage, and credit to John Schneider for being ahead of this trend, for setting the stage to be able to take advantage of what very well may be a trend this year. Are we going to see it go from 20 to 25% on 12 personnel looks? Dare I say, do we see a third of the time teams trying to live in that 12 personnel or something in that neighborhood of it? Because of the fact that, like I said, a lot of teams don't have that third linebacker that they can call upon. Look at our own roster, for instance. Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones are great. Drake Thomas can come and be kind of a cover linebacker, and Josh Jones has some familiarity with McDonald going back to Baltimore, but you lose one of your two guys, you don't have much beyond them. And as well, to my point on this, if some team goes 12 personnel, you want to go to Josh Jones and take Devin Witherspoon off the field or something like that? No, you're not going to want to do that. Now, I know Devin would go kicking to the outside, and then he'd probably do something else there along those lines, but it just shows that most teams are like this. They would much rather go to the alternative being either a safety or a corner that they go to there rather than that third linebacker, because teams just don't hold on to that many as far as from a depth standpoint anymore. You're lucky to have two good ones. Say nothing of having enough to have a third one that you can call upon. Tight ends got to do their job this year. It is not it's not going to be optional on this one either. It's like the running game. It's going to have to be a little bit foundational in what we do. And with Arroyo, by the way, he's not going to have to absolutely go out and dominate himself, but just find a role in the offense. You know, get your share of catches, be a big play guy at times, make some game-changing things happen. Don't have to be out there 24/7 rocking from the jump, but just find your way to kind of flex your way through. So be an offensive distribution. You don't have to have one guy that really carries the load, but everybody's got to carry their own end of it, just like that guy at the top step. Next up, defensive line destruction. Your Seattle Seahawks have a real potential here of having built the best cumulative defensive line in the NFL. Maybe there are stronger teams out there with a front four. Maybe there are teams out there that can kind of challenge them from a depth standpoint. But make no mistake about it, you probably have as good a depth as anybody in the league. And if a couple more of these guys just take a little bit more of a step forward, a Boye Mafe, a Byron Murphy gets to do his thing on the out, from the inside, but not from the one tech position, then that's a unit that just really now shines. And it's really becomes undisputed at that point. You got four edges you're going into this season with. That's as good a crew of four edges that you can see going back to even the LOB days. We had back then Chris Clemens, Bruce Irvin, Michael Bennett, and Cliff Averill, which were your main four coming off the edge at that time. Bennett would be kicked inside occasionally just to get him some, he was good at doing that too. He was a real true inside-outside player. But you haven't had as good a stack of four since going all the way back to there. Then on the inside, you've got Leonard Williams, who got Defensive Player of the Year votes last year. He did. I know he didn't win and all that, but he was in the running, and he should have been strongly considered, in my opinion, for the type of year that he did have. Byron Murphy, of course, relegated to the one tech last year, will hopefully be freed up a little bit from that this year. Jaron Reed had another really, really strong year. In fact, one of the better years of his career last season for your Seahawks. Part of the reason that Murphy couldn't get into that three tech role was because Reed was doing so good behind Williams in that role and what he was doing with it. So you have really a good assembly of players. Say nothing of Riley Mills, if he can come back from his injury a little bit sooner, and how he might fit into this defensive line and shake out into that. But you've got a defensive line that can create destruction. They can come at you in waves. You can keep them fresh. You control the clock. You're running the ball. Now that freshness is really on display where these guys can put the pedal down. They can go 100 miles an hour every snap. You don't have to think about, keeping your win for later in the game, because the offense is going to do their job on it. And you start to create the blueprint for how you can win football games. And it's a timeless blueprint. Play great defense, run the ball, play great special teams. And that's how you find yourself to get into 13, 14 wins suddenly. It's not always the most sexiest way of getting there versus like pure offensive explosion. But it's a damn effective way, and it's been timeless decade after decade after decade. You got the defensive line to get it done. Mike McDonald does not want to really blitz. Even at the height of his blitzing powers, he's going to be middle of the road. Last year, you were about 22nd in your blitz rate in the NFL, so you need your front four to get the job done. These guys got to be dogs. But unlike a little bit of how you'd done in Carroll's era at the end, where you didn't always stack up enough talent on Carroll's defensive line for his scheme to run true and right, very much the same way here. You can't run this scheme true and right if you don't have these kind of waves that you can throw at the offense. Doesn't just work having one or two guys and then just trying to get by with the rest. It's got to be both stacked to the front strong and then bring in the depth behind it. Just keep it coming. Keep it coming. Give him no breath, no refuge. The dynamic duo must remain healthy. This has got to happen. I just spoke to it a second ago about where the depth is at as far as the inside linebacking crew goes. It's not particularly great. Ernest Jones had knee surgery this offseason, and it's an injury that he's been dealing with for 2 years. You got to wonder with the guy a little bit. It gets me a little bit excited, quite frankly. It's almost like shades of an Abraham Lucas situation where you wonder now, like you get the impression the guy's been kind of dealing with this thing for a while, but he's able to play through it and play through it really well. It's still at a very high level. And then you go, well, what happens when we get the rock out of your shoe? You know, you're already playing still pretty lights out with it in your shoe. We take it out, and now you got no pain, and you're just running free and clear. Can you be even a better version? Part of the reason I think that there's a real chance this year Ernest Jones could break out, especially if they use him at his best in what could be as a blitzer, because he is a grade A blitzer. Just hasn't been used as much in that kind of role of things, but that's where he could really kind of separate himself from other inside linebackers in the sport if he's given some more of those opportunities, I think. Tyrese Knight had the best year for a will linebacker for a Seattle Seahawks going beyond KJ Wright. You'd have to go all the way back to Leroy Hill to find as good a will linebacker, a weak side linebacker rookie season as what he put on the board. These guys have got to remain healthy, and if they do, they're going to be as strong a duo as you will find in the NFL, collectively in what they bring. Especially if that breakout season can come from Ernest Jones, as I think it really can. These guys are a potential of notching, almost 250 tackles on the year and collectively spotting up 5-6 sacks and a couple interceptions probably on there as well. We saw in Tyrese Knight, he was having moments where he was manning up Amon St. Brown out of the slot and locking him down, manning up Marvin Harrison Jr. from the slot and locking him down. A lot of potential in this crew, but they've got to remain healthy for you to get there. They're going to be dynamic, no doubt about that. They're going to be a complete crew at what they do inside there, but they've got to remain healthy because you just don't have the depth you can call upon when you have to go beyond that with these guys. The most confusing secondary in football. What the hell do you mean by that? What's confusing? We don't want our secondary to be confusing. I want it to be very clear. And let me tell you what I mean by this. When you brought in Mike Macdonald, you shifted the plane. You went from a defense that was 32nd in the NFL at being predictable. What I mean by that is that what you showed in your coverage prior to the snap was what you were post-snap. I show you cover 2, you're getting cover 2 post-snap. I show you cover 3, you're probably getting cover 3 post-snap. And likewise across the board a little bit. So what you've done with going to Mike Macdonald, what's so much at the forefront of what he does is he marries a lot of his back end to his front end, and he wants to create confusion all across the board. Much like what Kubiak wants to do offensively, Macdonald wants to do defensively, which is to give your offense no keys, no indicators about what your intention is, about where you're going to be post-snap. And so to do that, you got to disguise, you got to hide, cloak and dagger, right? Be a little bit like a spy in a lot of ways. So what you show in your secondary is not what you're going to get when you face the Seattle Seahawks. And they have built a big, beautiful secondary. Big, beautiful secondary. Because not only do you have really good players who've really in a lot of ways ascended. I think Kobe Bryant's already ascended considering the tough path he's had to carve out to find himself at the safety position. I think Julian Love's ascended and doesn't get enough love for what he's become and is also a leader in that secondary. You can feel that aspect of him. Woolen still with the potential he offers while still walking in with 11 interceptions through 3 seasons, still learning the cornerback position. Devin Witherspoon, who in my opinion is already a star. Josh Jobe gave you flashes, bringing back Shaquille Griffin. This stuff is all very good, but the confusion. I have in all of these corners on this team a great fluidity and fluency in being able to play both man and being able to play zone. Ooh, Macdonald likes himself that. I have in Julian Love, a man that played outside corner at Notre Dame, came to the Giants. Giants played him initially out of the slot, then found his way to safety. Ooh, that's flexible. A lot of things I can put him into that he's going to be very comfortable doing that. Outside corner, slot, safety. And then I got Kobe Bryant, the Red Mamba. Starts out as a corner. Cincinnati, 2-time All-ACC outside corner. Walter Thorpe Award winner is the best cornerback in the sport, playing opposite Sauce Gardner. But then we move him to slot in his first year. But then McDonald moves him to safety last year. The exact same path of a Julian Love. Donald likes that. I can put him outside corner. I can line him up as a safety and pull him outside corner. I can line both Julian Love and Kobe Bryant up as safeties, bump them out to outside corner, flow my outside corners into the middle of the field in a zone coverage you don't even have an effing name for, drop my linebackers to depth on the outside like they're the outside corners in the situation, just flip everything which way over and loose. But you have the safeties who have the corner fluency to be able to slide into whatever you want them to do, be it go to the outside, go to the slot. And that is not a skill set that a lot of teams in the NFL have for their safety positions. There's still those teams in the NFL that still have, even though it has become a little ubiquitous with the cover two shell and the need for free safeties to do strong safety stuff and the strong safeties to need to do free safety stuff, you still have guys that are a little bit more of one versus the other. And that, they still will kind of tend to fit to their general traditional role post-snap as one to the other, thus making them a little bit more predictable as a defense, even with their cover two shell prior to the snap. But the Seahawks, they can float and rotate and spin things in every different direction that's humanly possible as far as the secondary is concerned. And quarterbacks are just not going to have an idea of what's coming. I'm telling you, watching the All-20 tape last year, there's so many times I could see quarterbacks dropping back McDonald's defense, and I couldn't figure out what the hell they were doing in coverage. You weren't seeing them move to traditional spots or spot dropping to traditional landmarks. You were seeing them squeeze down on those route concepts and really get into the routes and really try to almost predictably go to where they think they're going to try to run the routes on the play in a lot of ways, rather than just kind of playing to areas and islands on the field, which a lot of times you just get the sense of in zone coverage. Guys are just kind of sitting in a space and just waiting along for something to happen, as opposed to them moving with purpose in their zones. But you got to be confusing in this day and age. That's a great advantage to take off the table for the offenses, because so many offenses are built upon pre-snap recognition to identify what they don't want to do with the play call. We walk up the line of scrimmage with 2 play calls, maybe 3 play calls. We want to see what the defense is doing to assert the play call that we want to bring to bear. But if that defense is showing us something that they're not going to be, but we dictate a play call that's to what they're not going to be, but they're going to be to something else that might very well stop the play that we think they weren't, we're sunk. And the chess match is over with. But that's what makes Mike Macdonald such a grade A, both head coach and a defensive mind. And really, with the potential of this secondary, there's so many fun things that you can do with it. Say nothing of even adding in a guy like Nick Emawari to where he can play both of those safety positions with his speed and his tackling ability and his size. He can play that slot and be that big nickel roll at times, kick Witherspoon back to the outside. You can float them between one to the other. You can have Witherspoon look like a slot corner prior to the snap once, drop him to an outside corner. You can have Emawari up as a safety, have him run down into the slot post-snap, do a lot of these different games and just keep mixing it up to never quite allow the quarterback to get on firm footing, to realize what he's seeing, to get a rhythm for what he's seeing. And that is just partly of what could allow this defense to rise on up to become a top 10, top 5 defense this upcoming NFL season. But it would also mean and equate to, in my opinion, a team that could go on a championship run. This would be one of these very pertinent landmarks of that if that's going to go down in that way. Backing over to the offensive side of the ball and what needs to happen next over here, one of the important parts of the offense as it goes forward with this is going to be the elite slot production. And Jackson Smith-Njigba last year, you had him really come forward in a major way last year. That Rams game, the light bulb went on. Could have been a game where he had 254 yards receiving if a couple of penalties hadn't occurred there to wipe off some big catches. Truly a breakout game for him where he showed you that he is ready to ascend to become one of the best slots in this sport. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, his production last year is pretty remarkable when you consider that it did take kind of almost halfway into the year for things to really click in and lock and go. Now, he is moving to a new offense, but this is an offense that can be very friendly to slot wide receivers. They're going to feature him a bunch. He's going to get some run on the outside in addition to that. That's why I've got these other 2 gentlemen in here, is that it's not just about Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's about when Cooper Kupp's aligned in the slot. It's about when Arroyo's aligned in the slot. that whoever is in there of these three guys, you're able to push forward an elite level of talent from that position and play in and play out. You're able to challenge defenses, play in and play out from that position. Say nothing of if you go 4 wide or 3 wide with Arroyo as the 4th wide receiver, and now you've got your 2 guys to operate like 2 slot receivers. Can you dominate from this plane? Because when you look at it with the Hawks right now from an offensive perspective, there are pathways to find some effectiveness with outside receivers. Cooper Kupp's been a 50-50 guy throughout his career as an inside-outside receiver. Marquez Valdes-Scantling found really, really good productivity with Kubiak last year, operating as that X, and maybe you can find some touches with him. We're all very hopeful for Torrey Horton, and maybe even Bobo comes back into the mix on this as well. But you're going to kind of be getting by on your outside wide receivers. You need the tight ends. You need your slots to be dominant in what they do, I think, for this offense to be at its best. And again, knowing that the offense itself doesn't have to be dominant. You just have to have these parts working really well. The ground game cooking, your tight ends being good in what they do, and then you're getting elite slot production no matter who is in the slot. Because all of those guys are going to be a little bit rotated in given a time, given the matchup of the guy you might have aligned in the slot from the defense that you're trying to expose. Get a little bit of a smaller guy, maybe you want to put Arroyo out there. You get a little guy that might be having an issue with dealing with physicality, maybe Kupp. You have a guy that can't move his feet laterally and really struggles with real pure route runners. Maybe you go with the JSN out there through the game on that a little bit more often. You can kind of play it matchup by matchup on that one, but whoever you're playing on the matchup and whoever's out there at that slot, we need them to be elite this year. Next up, you're going to go and you're going to make a Super Bowl run. There is one key that always seems to be a cognitive tissue between these teams that do get there, and that is that you better have a couple of all-pros, and by my measure and my count, I think you're going to need 3. That doesn't mean first-team all-pros. It just means all-pros. That's all it means. So we just got to get a minimum of 3 all-pros, 3 guys that ascend up. This is back to the initial point that I started out with the show at the beginning of this. You've got the talent. You have drafted the talent. You've drafted guys high. You've drafted guys high that have shown they've got that ability to become these guys, to become that dudes. And a lot of these guys were really young guys when you drafted them, 21 years old, like Charles Cross, for instance. So it's made a lot of sense to give them that little bit of time over these 3 years to get to that final potential dominant form that I think that they do have on this team and these guys. I don't know who it'll be. I don't have a prediction on this one. I just know that it will take a couple of guys to really kind of ascend up and take that next step to give you the guys that can tilt the field, as John Schneider has said, to be that bit of that difference-making component to help take you over the top. A lot of guys we could go through the list of potentialities from Woolen to Witherspoon to Walker, maybe a Boye Mafe. Just everything comes together finally for him, and that streakiness goes away, and he just becomes hot streaky 24/7 all the time. Maybe Ernest Jones has that breakout season. Julian Love was a top 7 safety is how he was graded by PFF last year. Maybe some of the reputation rises with him. He has himself 5-6 interceptions and people recognize who he is and what he can do. Maybe it comes to that offensive line, be it a Charles Cross. I don't know. I don't know who it'll be or how it'll be, but we do need to probably get 3 of them in order to cement down that we have a dominant team, a team that can go on that kind of contending run. Because as looking at the past years through teams that just have gone to the Super Bowl, there's usually a couple of those all-pros on their team somewhere. And be it first team or second team, they're littered in there, a couple of them somewhere. Need a few of those guys. There's a little part that's been missing. Now, a little bit that kind of builds up to this, the dynamic duo having to remain healthy, defensive line destruction, the most confusing secondary in all of football, the need for small pros to rise up, and if there's any place they're going to be likely to rise up from, I think we could probably say it's going to be from the defensive side of the ball. These things all come in together for this thing to then click in, for this point of light to ignite. And that is the death zone earns its nickname. A little bit premature last year, having the nickname thrown on their shoulders. Hadn't quite done enough to earn it at that point. But if you got the nickname earned this year, you come out the back and death zone's just rattling off the tongue like LOB once did, well, then you know that defense got the job done. I put this on the last point of those other ones that go in front of it. How do you build to this? Through those other things. Defensive line destruction, dynamic duo, confusing secondary, talent across the board, returning all 11 starters, and also Uchenna Nwosu, who basically didn't play all of last year. Also, Nick Emawari, who at the very minimum, he doesn't have to start, but you can find some places and roles for him to just find some real quick, certain, instantaneous success on the back of him being kind of a mismatch nightmare for offenses in so many ways. And then you brought in DeMarcus Lawrence on top of it all. Shaquille Griffin in here too, as you can add him in. Not Shaquille's got to be grade A, but just that, hey, Shaquille Griffin now as a fourth cornerback on this team this year far surpasses anything that we've had as a fourth cornerback in this building here in the last few years. And DeMarcus Lawrence is the fourth edge on this team, far surpasses anything you've had on this team over the last many years, going back to maybe the LOB days. So this is not a defense now that gets this nickname or gets to the point of earning this nickname because people just want to have a flashy, cool name they can give it because people like to just do that stuff. I think that was a little bit of last year, but this year it's actually an earned nickname because of the, as I say, conditions that are set up for them to have this kind of success, to have this thing roll in the way that I believe it does. So those things all come together for the death zone to finally all click in and become dominant. Death zone becomes dominant. I think my floor on this defense right now is a top 10 defense. But I think that there's definitely a ceiling that goes way, way beyond that, where you can say top 5, top 3 type defense. If everything kind of clicks together like I've described in hopefulness, then you can get to that spot of things, I believe. The rookie class has got to produce. And this isn't something to look at the recent draft classes and say, well, we haven't got any productivity out of recent draft classes. That's not been the case. Byron Murphy played a lot of the games last year and was steady for you as a nose tackle, playing a little bit out of position. Tyrese Knight, best year you've had for a will linebacker in 20 years, as I said on that. AJ Barner, I think he had probably the third best rookie season for a tight end in Seahawks history. So you definitely got some production out of that rookie class. And it's been that way in recent years. Part of the reason you've been building up to a place of being in a position to be ready to go and become elite. But now you need just a little bit extra from the draft class. They don't have to come in, and you got to have everybody come in and give their contributions. And if they don't, you ain't going to get there. But I do think back to the 2017 New Orleans Saints, a team that was at the end of a run there, at the end of a run for Sean Payton, at the end of the run for Drew Brees, who had long gone through all of his old receivers and long gone through all of his old running backs, and they had spun through that offensive line a couple of times, and that arm was starting to fail on him a little bit. And they looked like they were kind of out of gas. They're in a lot of different place than our Hawks are at right now, as we're right kind of at the beginning of a rise. But something that really re-injected them and gave them a little bit more life was that 2017 draft class, where they just nailed it. Nailed that draft class, stem to stern, start to finish. And those guys were really able to come in and give them instantaneous production, and really good production at that, and help to elevate that Saints team to a place where really, they could have been a Super Bowl contender that year. They just got beat on the Minnesota miracle play. Stephon Diggs. They had the game in the bag, and then they threw the miracle, and it got blown. The same rookies that had helped get you through there kind of blew that play and allowed them to get through. But that draft class really did help to elevate getting some of that production. You don't need to get the 2017 Saints draft class, but if you could, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Zabel, be a steady starter for us at left guard. Emawari, find your role within the defense. It doesn't have to be a starter, but give us a role in this defense. Arroyo, go get me 20, 25 catches this year for 350 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns. That's all you got to do. And that would be a very successful rookie year for you. Jalen Milroe, go out there, be a guy that gives us the 7% of the snaps you come in and kind of run that little kitschy role. A lot of read option. We use you heavily as a weapon down by the red zone and allow you to work your way with that. You give us some productivity with that. We get that from this kind of crew. We get Torrey Horton able to come in and give you maybe some catches or start a couple of games for you off the outside as he kind of starts to emerge. And they can just help to kind of add in that extra bit that you need on the team to help take this thing a little bit over the top. So rookie class has got to produce. It doesn't have to have starters across the board. They've just got to be contributors and help this team out. Really, Zabel's the key of being, he's got to start. He's got to line in there and go. The other guys just more have to kind of find a role and fit into it. With Zabel, it's like, please, please be good at left guard. We desperately need you to be so. So rookie class, got to produce, man. Got to do it. Legs of gold. Special teams is sacred, man. I know I said that they're scared, but I meant that's sacred. So I got my wording wrong on that one. Freudian slip maybe perhaps on that. All right. Legs of gold. Your Seattle Seahawks are paying top end for your kicker. You're paying top end for your punter. In both cases, well-deserved. I know we give Myers a hard time at times for his Jekyll and Hyde seasons, but the guy is overall a big leg kicker who has been a good kicker throughout his career. He's earned the contract that he's on, going, I think, into the final year of his deal there that we signed. And then, of course, we just made Michael Dixon the highest paid punter in the sport. So special teams is sacred. All of this is that the special teams has got to be, if not a dominant part, a very close to dominant part of your ball club. Your kicker needs to be in a good season. He needs to be a Dr. Jekyll season. We know Mr. Hyde needs to go away this year. Dixon needs to do what he's done every single year of his career. As in my opinion, he's on if there can be a Hall of Fame trajectory for a punter, he's on it. Hopefully Torrey Horton can become your punt returner back there in a dynamic one as he was in college in that way. I think he can be. The next part will just come down to if Jay Harbaugh can get the team a little bit more improved as far as how they defend, especially the kickoffs. As I don't know if he always adjusted well to what they were doing last year with the kickoffs. Part of my hope with this will be that they have a little bit of a better plan with that. But you start out really well as a special teams coach when you can already have a grade A kicker and a grade A punter to begin things. And that's what the Seattle Seahawks are going to have with Dixon and Myers. And I would expect that that's going to help them out in a major way, especially considering this archetype you're building, playing defense, running the ball, controlling the clock, and playing great special teams. It all kind of combos together in that way. Because if you're running the ball and you're getting consistent drives, you're putting yourself in more of a positions at times to have to kick maybe more field goals. So you want your kicker to be able to make those kicks when you're going to put him in more of those positions to do that. You've got the conditions to do that here. Having a guy that can flip the field like Dixon helps you to create long fields for those offenses to try to get through that very animalistic defense that you have. And good luck at that. You know, that's going to be a long day at the office if you got to travel the full length of the field every time to go get yourself a touchdown or get yourself any points. So it all works together in combination, the designs of this plan. But you spent your money on these guys. You've laid it down in order to get top-end performance from both of these two guys, just that alone. And that alone should be very helpful to this team this upcoming season. You aren't going to land on a good kicker and a good punter by accident this year. You're doing it because you've spent the coin to do it. And I think that's a very important part of this. So they've got to continue to hold up what they do on their end. But the good news is it all works together well with what you're trying to do offensively and defensively. This is that timeless nature of this branded style of NFL team trying to go out and win, trying to go out there and get into the playoffs. This is the style of team as well, by the way, that tends to play pretty well in the playoffs. You know, those pass-happy teams peppering the ball all over the football field 24/7, that all looks well and good when you're in the fall. That all looks well and good when you're in September. But when the winds of winter are blowing, when that icy chill's running down your back, when you can't feel your fingers, it gets into old school football really fast. And this is old school football I'm talking about. Next up, on my 16 points of light, cut that man loose. Cut Byron Murphy loose. Release the Kraken. We got to let this guy go. Let him do his work. Let him be mean. And that means 3-Tech City. Jaron Reed, you've been a great soldier. You've had a hell of a career. You're going to be not an all-time Hawk, all-time kind of revered Hawk for having such a long career as you have. Maybe retire here at this rate. We never know. I'm going to need you at the 1-Tech this year, my man. I'm going to need you taking on doubles. We're going to give you a 3-year, $24 million contract at 32 years old because we're going to put you down in the mines again. You're going to be chipping away down there, okay? You're just chipping away, cutting out coal out of those mines, all right? And we're going to put Byron over and take up your snaps this year. He's over on the 3. He's going to take your snaps from 3-Tech, okay? But we're going to reward you, give the money, okay? Yep, the money. But let Byron go to the 3-Tech and back up Leonard over there because there's plenty of snaps to be had between Leonard Murphy and Byron. Between Leonard Murphy, I just combined them up. Boy, what a player that'd be, Leonard Murphy. There's plenty of snaps to be had between Leonard Murphy and Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy at the 3-Tech. You can chop up the cumulative snaps over the course of the game between those two, and both of them are going to have plenty to go out there and do their damage, especially considering that in Williams, you have a guy that can get to the edge at times. You can play him literally as a 9-Tech, and he's okay with it. He actually had some success at it, especially in that Cardinals game when you lined him out wide off the edge in that one. So let's get Byron Murphy cut loose. He had to live as a 1-Tech last year. He had to live with double teams by a 1-Tech alignment You have to take on the double team blocks. When you're doing a 3-tech, you're on the outside shoulder of the guard. It's harder for the center to get over there and double team you. It's nigh almost impossible. But when you're the 1-tech, when you're the nose tackle, and you're going to tend to be between the center and the guard in your alignment, between their shoulders, it's very easy to get that crispy double team in on that nose tackle. So it seems like maybe a minor thing to some of you out there, this little bit of this movement and alignment, but it can have a big difference on the impact of a player and what they can do as far as damage coming off the ball. Because there's few guys that are going to be able to cut up a double team. You're basically holding on for dear life, just trying not to give any ground. This guy, John Schneider said he was the best defensive player in the NFL draft last year. Straight from the horse's mouth. Straight from his lips to you. That's what they thought of this guy. That's what they believe he can be. You don't relegate that guy to the janitorial duties of the defensive in the NFL. You let that guy go do what he can do best because he could be potentially great at doing it. Hard in a little respect because Leonard Williams had such a great year last for you from that position, but find a bloody way. Find a way. Next up, I think this is going to also be a bit of an elemental part to your Seattle Seahawks getting over the top this upcoming season. And that is you're going to have to swing big, either at the trade deadline or just prior to. And what prior to would be is, training camp right now, a week from now, 2 weeks from now. It can be at any point in time. But I do look at the roster right now, and I like the roster. I think the roster's got a lot of potentiality. There's even maybe a reality that exists where this roster's got enough to be able to make a run without having to make another move. But I look at a few factors that go into play on this. Number one, you're sitting on $31 million of cap space right now. I know many of you are saying, well, we got to use that money to go and extend guys. I get it. There's money there to go out there and extend. There's money to extend these guys and still go make a big swing. You can do both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I know we sometimes are in a position to have to make those tough decisions, but your Seattle Seahawks are not right now because they've taken care of their cap, because they've eaten the bad money over the past couple of years and not instead kind of kick the can down the road with void years and burying the money down here and all of that. They certainly have converted bases to bonuses and this and that, and they've got some dead money in the books right now. But the cap is in as good a shape right now and into the future as we've ever seen it in recent history here. So you're in a position to be able to afford it from that standpoint. You just signed Sam Darnold to a 3-year contract. You signed Drew Lock to a 2-year contract extension. You've just drafted Jalen Milroe, who you know you need to give time if you're going to allow him to develop into what you hope can be eventually his best self, into the talent he has, but is a ways away from really reaching fully, and that you've got to give him that time. Thus, what I'm saying is you're not really as much in a position to have to be eyeing the quarterback position in next year's draft. You're in much more of a position to say, hey, we're not needing to hold up onto these picks in next year's draft with a death grip. If we've got the cap space to do this, and we don't have to have the draft picks that we're going to have to potentially package all together to go jump up for some quarterback that we desperately are trying to grab. If that's not the case, then we can both afford it on both ends of the scale here, both from the price monetarily and the price from a draft standpoint, to go and make a deal if a deal does show itself to be available. And so I think you got to be ready to strike on this one. It's not to say that it has to be right now or before training camp. It can be right up on the trade deadline. We've seen John in the past be able to make some big moves. Even minor moves that turned into fairly big moves in how they impacted the team. Quandary Diggs, that was a 5th-round pick. And that guy came in and he was the glue. He was the glue on that defense that year and really brought it all together. Carlos Dunlap, you couldn't get any pass rush. That guy came in and he was giving you like a sack a game when he walked in from the Bengals for a 7th-round pick. I think you're going to have to make a bigger swing than those 2 deals here. I'm advocating for more than that. So it's going to take having a deal available. Some years you just don't have the deal available at the deadline or prior to training camp, so that's also a factor here. But if there's a deal to be made, I don't think John can be hesitant about doing so if he wants to turn this team into a championship caliber team this year and get them to that place of things. You're going to require one more extra guy to send you up over the top. And I don't have somebody specifically. I know I've got TJ Watt here, but it can be just a big kind of move-ish like that, where it just really opens up some eyes and goes, oh, get you up on the edge of your seat. You know, one of those ones where you read a headline in bed and you don't even need coffee. You're already getting up out that bed. Like, I need to do something today. I got to get something going here. What's going on? So trade now, later, make a big deal somewhere. It doesn't have to be franchise crippling. Doesn't have to be multiple 1st-round picks. but you can give up some draft capital. It can be a Leonard Williams kind of trade deadline deal like you made a couple of years ago, something like that. Could you imagine the impact of that kind of player on a given position on this team somewhere? Could you imagine what that could do for it, adding a guy like that week 5 or 6, if this team is coming forward like I'm advocating that they possibly could? I just ask. I just wonder. Last two on this here, number 15. And this is a very important one, and this is maybe bearing the lead as maybe the most important one. He is going to have to be Mother Teresa a little bit this upcoming season. And not just him, but he's also brought the gang there with Benton and the crew in to hopefully help get this done. But we're going to need the Klint Kubiak effect to the maximum. And what that means is that he's got to come in here and clean up a lot of things that have been problematic for many years prior to Grubb coming in. Inability to target in the middle of the field. Pre-snap motion. Use of the outside running game to the edges. Unpredictability. These are things that have been widely missing from the Seattle Seahawks offense for many a year. Good news is the forefront of this offensive scheme and the designs of this offense are built to correct these very things that we have failed at. It's great at targeting the middle field. It's great at keeping the defenses off balance. But these are the things that are going to have to be corrected offensively if you're going to find just some stable footing to continue to be what you need, which is consistency from the offense, moving the chains to control the clock, to get just enough points, to allow your dominant defense to carry the day and your special teams to do their part. So it all interworks together. But for that to happen, those things have got to be removed. You've got to have less of the dead periods offensively where you're just getting nothing done at all. You can't find any footing. There's no consistency. There's no rhythm. Your offensive play caller just seems like he's throwing darts at a board. It's got to be a lot more of we've got a plan in place and how we're trying to do this. You can feel that plan. You can understand what we're trying to do. And we're seeking to attack in the ways that we haven't in prior years. The other part of this, of course, is Klint's ability to improve the offensive line. I have mentioned this many different times, but it's just worth saying once more. Everyone on that offensive line for the New Orleans Saints last year, everyone to a man, had their best career years. Best career year seasons, at least as if you want to take the PFF grading wise, right? I definitely watched some of the tape. I'm not going to lie to you guys and say I watched all Saints tape last year, but I think it stands out when you look across the board and you see that improvement, not just from the starters that were out there, but also then you've got the backups too, who when they came into the game and you look at their grades, where was that career, historically speaking, they were improved. I think that's part and parcel a bit from the fact that Benton is a very good offensive line coach. These things are real things in the NFL. It's not that one is indistinguishable from the other. Instead, it's that there's really a rarefied amount of good offensive line coaches in this game, and we might have just gotten one of them, and that the effect and impact of that can't be undersold. Can't be. So the combination of these two guys, the play calling of Kubiak, how he attacks, getting the instantaneous returns that we're hoping he can get from this offensive change, where a lot of offenses you tend to have to maybe wait a year for the coordinator to get the system in place, for people to understand the jargon, for him to get his players that fit to his scheme. Then you tend to have to wait that time period. But as we saw with him last year, coming onto a Saints team that was not a stacked offense, a lot of young players on the offensive line that you had to get coming forward in a major way to hopefully get that offense functioning. He had that offense humming until halfway into the year. Basically, half the offense got injured, out for the season, including your quarterback. So he's got to do it again. The Klint Kubiak effect to the maximum is going to be a very important part for your Seattle Seahawks to get to a dominant shape this year. Finally, last one. And this one is not as big a part of some of the other parts that I've mentioned up until this point, but I do think that this is just one little extra branch coming off this tree that's going to be an important one for them to utilize. And that's a weapon called Milroe. I was reticent at first when we drafted Milroe to think that you could do this sort of two quarterback thing and trot one guy and trot it out. And I was too caught up at the time on so many of the failures that have existed in teams that have tried to do this, like the Steelers last year with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, and it just looked like you were playing offense left-handed when you kept switching one out to the other. Or the old Jay Cutler meme we have where they're running the Wildcat and Jay is out as an outside wide receiver because Ronnie Brown's taking a direct snap, the running back at the quarterback position, and Jay doesn't even try to come off the line of scrimmage. He's just like almost scratching his butt once they call hike. But here, I have seen when doing a little bit of research on some teams, there has been some success. And it did stand out to me in kind of a major way when I looked at it, because You could find a team like the Steelers taking a Cordell Stewart, who has so many similarities to a Jalen Milroe, and bringing him in there and using him in the same role you're going to use Milroe this year, and it really helping out a team in the Steelers that didn't necessarily have grade A quarterback play at that time with Neil O'Donnell. And they got all the way to the Super Bowl in that rookie year of Cordell Stewart coming in that slash role, the same role Milroe is going to play. I mentioned that 2017 New Orleans Saints team. You know what they did in 17 as well that was pretty cool? That was the Taysom Hill year. That was Hill coming to that team for the first time there and really then fitting into that same kind of role of what Milroe or what Cordell Stewart's done in years prior. And that team got really far and was a Minneapolis miracle away from just missing the Super Bowl. And then the year after that, they had the bad PI on the Rams team that cost them from getting the Super Bowl that year. So shows you that you can use this to a pretty strong effect, this quarterback weapon X thing. If you use it right and you fit him to that role, it can be pretty hard on these defenses to have to try to prepare for that and deal with that as just an extra thing, an extra pitch you can throw at them when there's already so much you're going to be able to throw at them as far as this offense goes. Milroe goes out, 30, 40 carries this year, a couple of 100 yards, use him down there as a red zone threat. Maybe he's got 15 to 20 attempts over the season, but you're able to really maximize those attempts and how you utilize him. Just takes the offense up a little bit more as far as its productivity goes. Just helps to click a little bit more forward. And I think that this is going to be the whole is going to be necessarily greater than all of the sum of the parts because you have so many parts that can all work. And a big characterization of this offense is you're not necessarily trying to feature one or two parts to it, but you're trying to distribute in order to do that thing that I said is at the heart of this offense when I was talking about Kubiak, being that you're trying to disguise. You're trying to not lead defenses to be able to lean to where you're going, to have indicators pre-snap about what you're doing, but also from a tendency standpoint, they don't have indicators where they can lean because you've been doing something so much. Oh, you've targeted JSN 9 times in the first half of this game. We're going to just go ahead and lean and take that away from you. Instead, what you'll see and what you'll find is a lot of games you'll come out of it where a quarterback might have 23 completions to 14 different wide receivers over the course of the game. And that's part of the way that the attack works and just trying to keep defenses off guard and uncertain about what you're trying to really do. But those are my 17 points of light. Sam Darnold on repeat. Running game rolls. Control the clock. The offensive line becomes mid. Tight end do-si-do, defensive line destruction, the dynamic duo remain healthy. The most confusing secondary in football. Elite slot production. Minimum 3 all-pros. The death zone earns its nickname. The rookie class produces. Your legs of gold are worth it. You got to cut Byron Murphy loose. Swing big at the trade deadline. Don't swing small, swing big at the trade deadline or even prior. I'll take a guy right now. I don't care. Klint Kubiak to the maximum, goes without saying, and then a weapon called Milroe. Those are my 17 points of light for your Seattle Seahawks championship 2025 season. Let me know, am I off my rocker? Is there no chance? Or are we on to something here? Or am I on to something, but it just takes so very bloody much to come together for it all to inject fully, and that we just got to wait a year, and then that's the time this will all click into place. I'd love to hear from you guys about where you stand and where your hopes lie here with this team. I know the optimism is rising and as higher as we've ever seen, I think, here locally in Seattle in recent years, but at the same time, that runs counter to some of the national perspective that also does exist out there that isn't necessarily finding itself seeing things in the same way. We'll chop it up with you guys a little bit here today. Please, if you can, for me, hit that like button. You know, I do appreciate it. I really do thank you guys for doing it. It does help the channel grow. I want to put a little bit of a note out to you guys today as well, too. This is going to be a little bit of a wrap-up show here as we're going to do a tiny bit of a break. I'm going to be trying to get some shorts and some videos and uploads here for you guys over the next couple of weeks just to try to keep things a little peppered in there. But we're going to do a little bit of a break because I know we go a little bit quiet here right before kind of training camp. People go out on vacation and whatnot. I'm going to go take a little bit of time off myself on this way. But like I said, we'll be kind of clicked in. I'll be over on the Twitch channel doing that stuff over there. So if you want to subscribe to me over there, we'll be running some stuff over there and doing some things with that as well. But we'll be back doing the daily shows once we get into kind of training camp and things kind of click back in and we got some news to report and things are kind of coming and goings or ongoing at that point. But just want to give you guys the heads up on that. With that said, let's let you guys take it away from here, see where you guys are at with things. A couple donations here as I'm a little bit behind on those. Phoebe Moore Seahawks, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, could be make a dinner plate analogy on our players. Make a diner plate, a diner plate analogy? Well, you're going to need a 4-course meal in order to get yourself to the championship. You've not built a team that has been one that some teams are going to be built by the star power of their quarterback position. And they have good parts too around the quarterback position. It's not to say that I think the days of a quarterback just throwing the cape on and going are kind of over with. You've got to have a good team, but that they are largely living on, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes. These teams need those guys to make it go. I think with us, it's going to be more of, that's why I say 4 courses. It ain't just about the main course. It's about all of it working together to give you the perfect ideal meal. And everybody's got to do their part. Special teams is your little entree, Defense would be your main course, or no, you got entree and defense is your main course, and offense would be a little bit of the dessert. Something like that. Or maybe the offense is the entree and then the special teams is the dessert. But it's a team that is truly a team. I know we say have 53 guys. This does seem kind of self-evidential here a little bit that, football's a team sport. Yeah. But no, it really is going to be this year where we're not driven by star power being top heavy. We're going to be driven by the fact that we're a really solid collective team with a real solid collective depth. I think the Rams, the 49ers in this division are very top heavy. They have a couple of key injuries and they're toast. I don't think that's the case with us, but that's also then the case that everybody's got to do their part then because of that. Whereas the Niners can maybe, if their stars hold the line and can remain healthy, maybe they don't have as much of that need of those supporting parts to be carrying as much. It's kind of the way of the differences of how we've been built. Smash mouth and gun offense. I like it, Jonas. Let's go. Let's go. Jonas says, would love for us to use multiple tight ends, like the not mentioned Patriots, but really his Fant won't be used enough again. Royal will be used a ton, but that's just one. Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of that 12 personnel, though, Jonas. I do. But interesting to see how they switch through those roles a little bit. Eric Knupp, I hope you're right. Says Reed and Murphy are basically switching roles this year. I hope so. I really hope so. I think that's the case and what they're going to do. It makes the most sense. It's kind of the easiest pathway to getting resolution on this one would be to take that approach with it. Hard to say, you never know, but that would be the good one. Yeah, DeMondre Lamore got arrested in L.A., so we'll see how serious it is. But I can already feel from some of the 49er content creators when they're talking about this. You get them a little bit nervous because last year it was born under a bad moon kind of season for the Niners. They were snake bit with a lot of different things going on. They were just like, this year's not looking good, and it's not a good harbinger that you're in June already with your players getting arrested. I'll say that. Jonas is trading Nwosu and gives 7 to Emawari. I can't sting number 3 jerseys anymore. On a safety, it doesn't look very hard, does it, Jonas? It's not a tough number. It's always been a kind of quarterback number. 3 is a tough one for me too. I don't know. Yeah, we got a little Xena and Pumpkin in the house today. They're both making an appearance here. Phoebe Moore Seahawks, thanks for another $5 donation. That's what makes Mike Mack so smart. He can predict what the offense is going to run, change coverage to match the play, and be 70% right. Sounds like smoke. Sounds like a something emoji there. Smoky emoji. And that's what Mike's doing. And he's known for being a fierce film study guy, and that he's really going to dive into that tape as much as possible. I think it's one of the places where defenses have a real inroads here to take something back from the offenses. And where I think that is at is in that offenses now only have so much time that they have to get their schemes implemented. Only so many reps in practice, only so many live reps with pads. So it probably leads a lot of offenses to not being able to expand things in their playbook as much as you maybe would have been able to do even 15 years ago when you had the off seasons, which were a lot, I think, richer territory for that. And you had the OTAs, you had the padded practices. So I think that within that, if you're a coach that's willing to get that work put into where you can recognize how teams are doing what they're doing, it takes a lot of grinding. It takes a lot of getting in that film, I'm sure, to get to the point where you see it. And then you got to be smart enough to know what you're seeing and what to look for. But Mike seems to be that guy, feed me. And that, and he's not scared to squeeze down on those concepts he thinks you're going to run, even if it means sometimes at the expense of leaving himself a little bit vulnerable on the back end. So cool about that is that they've still done a great job last year preventing the big plays over the top, while at times making those real clear choices to try to get down and squish down in front of the sticks, especially like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. No, we're going to get on the sticks. We're not going to stay deep to try to, go, well, as long as we give the deep ball, we gave him the first down, we didn't give him the deep ball. He doesn't operate that way. So it's part of why I say he's a legit, really smart defensive-minded coach and a very good head coach, but it can't always we may get lost that sometimes as good a coach as I think he's going to show himself to be, that he's a grade A defensive mind. And definitely an equivalent as far as McVay goes to the defensive side of the ball and what he does. I really do believe in that. Thank you, though, Femi. Appreciate you, man. Stimpy says Dixon should have been an All-Pro last year, but wasn't. Yeah. He should have had a couple on his resume by this point. Kind of weird that he didn't. Misfit, Murphy was the number 1 defender on my Seahawks draft board, but is with Verse. We needed a defensive tackle or deep at edge. I came around on Murphy later in the process. Have high hopes. Yeah, I get where they're coming from with it. And I liked Verse too. If they'd gone with Verse, I think we would have, even without having the hindsight 2020 with the kind of season he had, I think we would have been happy with that one too, even with where we were at, kind of having a lot of extra edges. But we understood the process. I was in the same place, Misfit. I mean, I wasn't over the moon with Murphy as much as some of the others were out there. He grew on me after going back and watching some of the film study again after the draft. But you can certainly understand where they were coming from it logically. Kyle from South Park says, Lenore from the Niners talking so much about trash about JSN on the live video and going back and forth with K9 earlier in the offseason is hilarious now, considering Lenore just got arrested yesterday. There's a reason I guess they call him the hyena, because with hyenas they'll sometimes make sounds for no reasons, and I get that with Lenore. He fashions himself as kind of like a Sherman clone, but you're not that. And it was one of the funner moments last year watching K9 flip him for real. He flipped him for real on the field, and it was nice. Lenore and they're talking, and K9 just flips him. Shut up. Donnie says, Brandon, hope all is well despite the passing of Bill Moyers, Lalo Schifrin, and Rick Hurst. Well, RIP to them. Doing well over here. Hope you guys are having a great weekend on deck. Stimpy, thank you for the $5 donation. Appreciate that, Stimpy. One more thing that's not necessary but would help so much is gaining back our home field advantage with the 12s. We need to be loud again. Indeed. Sad watching the home field advantage, not only kind of Stimpy in a lot of ways pitter out, but just sort of like drain out the bottom of a hole in a bucket with that type of speed is how you felt with this over the last couple of years. And it's been notable over the last 10 years is happening. It has seemed to kind of accelerate over the past few seasons. A lot of reasons that have been mentioned for that. I think all of them are pretty valid in that they're all taking a little bit of a peck from this thing in their own way. But you mentioned it, and that's would be a very important part. I didn't put it as one of my keys, Stimpy, not because I wouldn't want to have it. I just don't know if there's a way to solve it at this point. It does seem like an issue that just goes beyond sometimes it gets sold, Stimpy, to me as being one where it's, well, what do the fans have to root for? Well, people loved Russ, and then they saw Russ leave, so now they don't want to go to games. Well, people love Carroll, and then you got rid of Carroll, so now they don't want to go to games. But I just don't know if that's what's holding it up as much as the money thing, and then you got people reselling tickets, and then there's people trying to help that out, which is cool, and stop it. But at the same point in time, it's like an automatic thing that it happens where you have these automatic people that when the tickets go on sale, they're able to go buy them, and they're just going to, with the whole intention of reselling the whole time, and maybe they're not even local Seattleites. It's a really complicated issue, and really it's heavily driven by the fact that the NFL doesn't want to have blackouts, and they don't want to have teams that are going to be in December and the stadium's not sold out, and that lost revenue on that because you only have so many games every year that you get to have at home. So it's a complicated little issue to try to solve on this one, and it does extend out just outside of our local region. I think for the problems that are being caused by it aren't just necessarily fans checking out or not as into it. The cost of games is certainly a big impactful part of it too. But even that, I don't even know if that's as much to me of the angle of it, because Mariner fans go and fill up the Safeco over there, 82 game season. There's a ton of fans that go over there and do that. Weeknights, get out there at 7:00, versus a Sunday where you have all day to get out. So I don't know if as much I buy into as much the monetary thing. I mean, that's impactful too with it, but I think it's just that worry that the NFL has in not having the tickets sold. And if you start, making sure, well, only local tickets can be sold, but it'd be good to see. You're right about that, Stimpy. Can't be undersold. If you could get that home field advantage back, I'm talking about a defense running this team in many ways. If your defense is going to be run by this team in that way, having the crowd at their back, that wind at their back, to be able to be blowing them even faster we've seen that aided so many defenses through our years here in Seattle, whether it's at the Kingdome or whether it's in the new stadium. That effect is tangible, real, and so fundamental at times to be able to create these championship runs that we have. After all 3 times that we have gone to the Super Bowl, we've done so with home field advantage through the playoffs. I think that's notable, especially considering that you've had, most of the years that you've been around, one of the best, if not the best, home field advantages in all of football. Well said, Stimpy. Well said. Agreed. Seth says, if we're taking a big swing, I'd say go after Trey Hendrickson. It could be that for me too. I'm open-minded on this one for me, Seth. It can be kind of a variety of different guys, but I think you do have to top the tank off. They always say, don't top off the tank. Well, this is one where I'd say you got to top off the tank if a championship contending run is the goal. If you're going to just continue to take an incremental step forward from Schneider and McDonald's perspective, and they're saying, we don't want to shortcut anything. We just want to continue to build this slow, steady, and surely, and keep ourselves clean and true in future years. I could get that. I completely understand that. But if you want to make the run, if you want to go hard, Kevin O'Connell, they're working on it with the scrapping fans that sell their tickets. They're trying to take some steps, Kevin, which is I'm cool to see. It's really cool to see them actually, try to find some traction on this and try to do something about it rather than just lip service, or say that maybe eventually we'll analyze it. We'll have a study conducted, rather than doing that. I think that they've gone at it a little bit differently, which is good. And so it's a start, and I like it. It's a good start. Hopefully they can keep building on it, Kevin, and find a way to get this back, because it was starting to go the wrong way. Stippy says, still my proudest moment as a 12 was at the Packer game. I made 2 Packer fans next to me visibly annoyed by how loud and how much I was yelling the entire game. Yeah, other fans don't understand it with us. They think it's all acoustics of the stadium. They think it's all manufactured. They're pumping in noise. No, we're not. It's that we all got the memo years back. Everybody understood what time of day it is. We are going to be different in the Pacific Northwest when we walk in that stadium. There's going to be a level of volume that we are going to try to supply our team. You ain't going to get anywhere else in the league. You might get close, but you ain't going to get anybody that's going to top us. And we understand that foundationally, to make this happen, everyone in that stadium has to open their gullet and roar. You don't get to be the lazy ass in there stuffing your mouth. Get up and help your team. Because how cool is it? There's no other sports where really the fans can as much help their team this tangibly as you can here. It's like you're coming out and telling, this is the reason they retired the 12th man. And no other team has done that in the NFL. It's not a marketing ploy. It's because it's like having a 12th man on the field when you're at that volume. That's how important it is. Love you, Juan. Good to see you too, man. Hope you're doing well. Feed me more Seahawks. Thanks for the $2 donation. Says, it feels like the earth is built to stay home nowadays. Yeah, that's a bit of it too. That's for sure. I mean, I'd be lying if I'd say there isn't times where I do enjoy being able to watch games from the couch and comfort your own home. And, you know, just especially when you're in that stadium, it gets cold in the wintertime at times out there down by the water. So it's the truth. You know, we see this with movies, right? And the movie industry is kind of holding on with a death grip here a little bit. People aren't going to the movies as much anymore. You know, you got your home theater experiences and the speakers, and you can kind of replicate almost at home what you can get out abroad a little bit. It's very true, man. It's why this is kind of a complicated issue. It ain't just something to where like fans unloyal, fans bad, punish fans. It's like there's a little bit of that there, but it is a lot of other things coming into play too. Seth K. Aloha. Thank you for the $5 donation, Seth. Old man Stafford is going to hit that age wall. Turdy going to look irrelevant, not surrounded with a loaded roster. And Kyler, well, it's Kyler. I would agree, man. I would definitely agree. I could see Stafford definitely hitting the wall. My man has played 15, 16 years. We've seen that end come for these old, great quarterbacks, highly talented quarterbacks, that you start to hit that wall, you hit that wall hard. And it's not one that tends to be just a soft, steady, descent. It tends to be like, man, I can't do it anymore. You wake up, I just can't do it anymore. And Stafford's definitely, while he played great last year, you do wonder how long he's going to be able to make that go. Purdy doesn't have the receivers he did prior years. One of the stats that stood out to me when he was initially walking in the door and taking over the starting reins as a rookie was that he had four receivers of the top 15 in football at creating separation. So you're throwing to these guys where you got a guy this wide open every time you're throwing to. So what happens when those throws have to go to like this? What happens when those throws have to go from this to this as far as how tight the coverage is? When you don't have a grade A top end arm and you can't fit it in with velocity into a really tight hole. And that's where we will learn with Brock. Say nothing of the health with Brock Purdy too. I mean, is that arm really 100%? Is he really not just kind of one normal hit away from having himself get racked again on that? Like you say with Kyler, Kyler's Kyler. I think if you put the Cardinals ownership and general manager on a lie detector test, if they could find just even equivalent to Kyler on the other side, they didn't have to eat a bunch of dead money to do it, they'd probably do it. And I think this is very likely to be Kyler's last year with the Cardinals, in my opinion. Especially when they end up in fourth place. Oh! Hi, kitty. You're a cutie. Martin Lawrence, thank you for the $5 donation, Martin. With our stacked running back group, we're bound to run at least a few two-back sets. The fact that each of the running backs are different should make it really interesting. Yeah, he's got a toolbox with specific tools that are all different from themselves. He's got his Phillips wrench, he's got his hammer, he's got his screwdriver. He's got a variety of different things that he can. What are we doing here? Or are we just going to stand in? Okay, there we go. So he can kind of. I mean, it's even to like defenses that he can attack. Martin, it's like you got a defense, let's say, that's really big, but has a hard time getting lateral to the edges. It's like, well, we're going to run outside zone with Walker all day. And if you have a defensive line that wants to go light and they want to run light boxes and they want to run that cover two shell stuff and that they maybe are a little bit faster, maybe you're more with the Charbonnet, Martinez kind of hammer that you can come downhill with. I think as well with the two back sets, you're going to see a lot of the I formation looks. You're going to see a lot of the fullbacks in there too. And this just makes it Running backs love that, by the way. I mean, it's a running back's best friend having a fullback in front of them, because it means that they can really lean on their vision post snap, and they can have a chance to make a real honest assessment about what's going on. They're also going to be a little bit more confident in the fact that they know that there's not going to be penetration in the backfield to knock them off balance before they can make that read, because the fullback will be there to clean it up if there is initial penetration. It's a very big benefit to those running backs. I think pretty much almost every running back you'd ask, not everybody, but most of them would say, like, if I give you the option between being a single back Martin with like 2 tight ends, or giving you the 1 tight end and giving you the fullback, I think most would probably say that they would take having that fullback back there, getting it done. But you got a lot of different combinations, man, and they're all different running backs. None of these guys there's some similarities between them, but I think they're all really, really different, And it'll be interesting to see how he uses them. It'll be interesting to see how he rotates them. It'll be interesting. Maybe he leans onto one that he just gets fascinated with Walker, for instance, and he's just like, I just like Walker. I want to lean on him with this. He's got a lot of options. That's the good part, Martin. A lot of options in a really, really talented running back room. Thank you, though, man. I appreciate the donation. Nick F says, I thought you were going to stop mega streams. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit longer today, Nick, because I'm going to be taking a little bit of a day off. But I've also said I was going to go while I've got donations. So I've still got donations I'm reading through right now. Plus, it's going to just depend on the topic. Some topics are 10, 15-minute topics. When we do the daily show during the season, for instance, we'll be covering stuff where it's like, this guy's got, this guy's moved. It'll be a lot more in and out. For a subject today where I've got like 17 points of light on championship stuff, I'm going to go a little bit longer. But by and large, they'll still be shorter streams. But the donos are still rolling. And I'm going to be taking a break after today, Nick. So go a little bit longer today because we'll be doing a little bit of a break after today. Feed me. Thank you for the $2 donation. He says, we've had concerts in Seattle causing earthquakes. The concerts have caused them too, huh? Was that the Swifties? Feed me. Swifties make that happen? I bet they did. I bet they probably did. Our football teams do too, though. That's the important part. Thank you, Feed me. Martin, in a league where the rules seem to be applied in favor of the offense, having a dominant defense is such a great combination of players, scheme, coaching, and Mike McDonald's defense. You need all parts now, Martin. We had a defense prior that said, like, we're just going to let you line up and run fast, and you could kind of get away with doing that, and we're going to run a lot of the same coverage over and over again. You get away with doing that, it was a different age. And we're in a new age now. And the new age is that you got to bring the whole combination that you just talked about to bear. You need the coach. You need the collective of players. You need to be able to do a wide variety of things. You need to be able to confuse. And that's something that Mike McDonald has supremely embraced. And I think that the better defenses as we move into the next few years are going to be those defenses that embrace confusion. Confusion in your secondary, pre to post snap, confusion in your defensive alignments up front, stack boxes, simulated pressures, faking double A gap mug pressure, zone blitz drops, confusion all across the board. Levels. Seth says Purdy's arm strength was already concerned, and now there's injury to his shoulder. Yeah, it's just one of the reasons I would have been a little bit worried, on top of already giving him that money for what you're going to get on the field, just if he's rolling right and it's rolling true and he's rolling good. Is he worth $53 million? Say nothing of then the injury risk on top of it, Seth. That to me made it a deal breaker as far as I'll let you play out the final year of your deal. We'll roll the dice on this one. Alpha says, give me Kenny McIntosh or give me death. Brian, don't have to watch from the beginning later. Got to stay up on the Hawks nest. Thank you, Brian. Good to see you, brother. Sloppy One says, can I get a record prediction this season? My prediction right now is at 11-5 as it stands, or 11-6, I guess it is. So 11-6 would be my record prediction. But for these things to all come together, this is that I talk about today, there's certainly a real possibility of a 13-14 win team. If you get I put 17 points of light out today. So if you get 15 of the 17 points of light, that's probably a 13, 14 win team if those things occur. It's part of that. What I say is, well, there's definitely a prediction I have for it, but there's also a further upside that exists in this team that's very feasible, that's very possible. Seth says, what's sad for our running backs, they've been consistently hit behind the line of scrimmage and have to fight not just to not lose yards. Boy, is it the truth. And it's maybe one of the more brutal parts of watching the All-22 from last year and the last couple of years. It's tough watching the quarterbacks get pressured like they are instantaneously at times. Stone Forsythe completely lost in the sauce. It's really tough, though, when you're watching. We were running a play, I think, yesterday that we were looking at with Christian Haynes, where Haynes was actually running his block really well. But then you had just penetration every which way but loose. Every guy losing his block here, losing his block there. And so you're just, not only is then a Walker getting penetration, where it's just one guy as soon as he gets the handoff, but there's a guy right here, there's a guy right here, there's a guy right there. I mean, there's just no exits for him. Even if he does his creative spin move, dead leg, juke, 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 spin loop, dead leg, jump back, human joystick. Even as it does all that stuff, there ain't nowhere to go. The net is around him. He has been surrounded. You're stuck. So it's tough, and hopefully that's a part that does free up now. Hopefully that's something that starts to they get a little bit more of those open holes. And this is all the kind of the point a little bit of the zone scheme, is that it does give you those holes. It does eliminate the penetration. You may not get as many of the big runs you bang off, the 40, 50, 60 yarders, but you're going to get more of the consistent 5, 6, 7 yard runs. You're going to get less of the penetration in the backfield. Williams says Brian Nimhauser has set up a ticket exchange where the Seahawks fans can sell tickets to Seahawks fans. Really cool that he's done that as well. Another part of the steps that have been taken to where we're maybe starting to bridge a little bit of this gap back the other way. And very cool of him to do it. Hopefully Hawk fans with the tickets take advantage of that. Jonas says Sharps is deceptively smooth like Sean Alexander. He does have a little bit of that to his game. Yeah. And I think you're right. K9 with a little Lily Danian to his game. I think that's a fair comp too. Martin says, I'm hoping that Walker cuts down on the bouncing outside this season. Turned down some nice, easy gains last season by constantly bouncing to the outside, looking for the big play. That's going to be the place that I think you can be confident to know that is going to be something that'll be cleaned up. And it's cleaned up by the designs of this scheme, Martin. So the zone scheme is one that is very much dictating to the running back more than any other run blocking scheme that you'll find. I mean, gap you're pulling, sometimes you're going to say, okay, you better give the second thing a second on those kind of specific plays. But for the most part, zone is going to say, we want you to get to this spot in this timely of a fashion. We're going to block this up, and we're going to block this up in a certain way that the expectation is that you're running through the hole at this time. And it's very precise. I mean, it's a blink of the eye kind of precision there, Martin. So what that then doesn't allow the running back to do is then get the handoff. Look at this way, look at that way. Maybe make just a gentle jump cut to kind of think things through for a second, and then he engages. It's going to do a lot less of that for him. And I think this is where it could help his game out, Martin, to where it takes a little bit of the thinking away from him and just allows him to lean into that quickness, that burst, that speed. And then when he gets to the second level, that's when you go crazy. That's when you let those guys make all the moves in the book that they want to make. But get to the second level first before you start making all those crazy moves. A lot of running backs don't like it, Martin. Some running backs get pissed off by it. It's like quarterbacks who hate running play action from under center when they have to turn their back to the defensive line. They don't like having to be force fit in that way, but sometimes it's what's best for them. It's like forcing your kid to eat his vegetables. May not like it, but it's what's best for him. HHG, has Sauce Gardner been exposed finally? He hasn't been playing well as recently, and I think his penalties have been going up more than ever. It's been a little bit of an issue with him. And I think he's, if not exposed, definitely the stars maybe not quite as bright as it was from that first year, which he was overrated as hell in that first year. Yeah, we don't need K9 seeing ghosts, that's for sure. Brian E says, since I'm late, I'll just throw this out there. I'm shooting for a 12-5 season, only because we're going to be running neck and neck with the Rams all year long. We win the division, so much the better. That'd be great, man. I love your prediction. And I'm at 11, so 12 ain't that far off. I could see it absolutely happening that way, Brian. Absolutely could. You've got a nice little schedule set up. And boy, when it comes to the Rams and the Niners, a couple injuries. I call it the twofer. If I mention two of the names off that are at the top of their line on any of these teams, be it the Rams or the Niners, I think you look at that team and you go, man, there's no way they win the division. Maybe they can slide their way, just barely make it in the playoffs. But I think you definitely say their division hopes are sunk. I take out Trent Williams and Fred Warner, DeMondre Lenore and George Kittle, or I go over to the Rams. Obviously, Stafford's kind of an easy one, but if I take out Devontae Adams and Jared Verse, does that team have enough to lean on if I took out just those two parts there to still go out there and be a division champ at that point, Brian? I don't think they do. Hell, I think if they lost to Kobe Turner and Puka Nacua, I think they're in the same place where maybe they can get the playoffs, but they're not winning the division at that point. Yeah. Riverside, DJ Reed, yeah, DJ went to Detroit. I think we kicked the tires on him, but I don't think we're going to give him quite what Detroit was going to give him. Detroit was a little bit more desperate. Jonas says, milk the clock, control the ball by running a lot of knocks, ground knocks. Back to ground knocks, man. And we're certainly going to do that this year. I got no doubts in my mind we are going to run the ball. Catalyst Reed, still underrated. Great man coverage. He was just steady and strong for the Jets, man. He earned every bit of that contract that he got with them. And, he performed much better for the Jets than, for instance, Shaquille Griffin did when he went to the Jaguars. But he's a good player, and that's what that Lions team needed. They got Javarius Ward, I think, in there as well, so they're going to try to kind of cobble it together out there. It's a little bit better than it's looked in recent years for them. But that's where their weakness has been defensively, is that can't get enough pass rush, and the guys in the back end don't cover good enough. And you can just kind of sometimes take it to that defense. But they're trying to shore it up. Yeah, DJ Reed is better than Sauce, Riverside. I agree. Better ball skills, better coverage skills, better fluidity, playing man or zone. It's a better player. Better player. And he did Slovey one. He did, Sauce did steal Defensive Rookie of the Year from Reek. That was ridiculous. It said these East Coast, I'm going to start calling them East Coast Awards. I think that's what I'm going to start labeling them. Call them East Coast Awards. Martin says, I think we'll be 11-6 and we'll win the division, another year of improvement, and then maybe make the conference game. I'll take that right now. Hey, I'll take that year too, man. I'll take that season. That's progress. That's progress. That's forward momentum. That's what we're looking for here. As I said at the top on this, Martin, I do think you have a team that is ready to go. It's ready as far as you've done the hard work. The foundation is laid. You're building up the building. You are putting on your roof. It is a matter of time. Now, the matter of time could be a little bit more than the year, but you are on that path, and I think that we're going to see the evidence of that this year, and that improvement, the win-loss record, and getting the playoffs, and making some legit noise. Gadless says Purdy seems to have a hurt elbow or shoulder every season. He does. If you look at it, watching him, and you see him taking the hits, I don't know why, if it's his size, he's a little bit of a smaller guy, so I don't know if it's this. But when the edge is coming around and they're beating the tackle off the edge, and they've beaten them with quickness around that side, and this wouldn't be to the blind side on Brock, this would be to the front side. So when that strong side edge comes around and he beats the edge, and Brock is trying to get a throw off late, he can feel the pressure, he's really tough, and he's going to try to still deliver the ball. He doesn't always have the best spatial awareness of timing, of feeling how close that edge rusher is on him, versus pulling back the throw and getting caught in the throwing motion right here. Because when he got the Tommy John injury happened, it got in the Eagles game, it was when he was caught and hit in this throwing motion with the edge coming off the edge like that. And I've seen a variety of times where he gets hit in that same place And if you can, folks, pull your arm back like you're throwing a ball and then hold it tight like this right at your shoulder. And if you can feel on that, there's not a lot of give if you want to go back or you want to go up. And especially if something hits it violently to send it that way, you have a good chance of snapping, tearing, pulling something, don't you? If you can feel that and how it pulls off, especially my old ass that's just stiff as a board. So I worry about that with him because he's just at that right size where a guy going who's 6'4", bending with depth, coming with speed, just can hit him full force, and it's goodbye city. Goodbye city. Jonas says our defensive line should act like they stepped in Purdy and checked their shoes after they sack him from now on. Seth, I'm already salivating over our D-line. Could you imagine adding Trey Hendrickson? Overkill. I like overkill, man. I like the thought of taking it beyond the what you thought you needed as a minimum. Take it far beyond. I mean, that's how you build a dominant group, in my opinion. You know, were we happy where we had, you know, pretty good defensive line, Bain there, McDonald coming back in, Bruce Irvin, Chris Clemens, where you're like, hey, we're good. We're sitting pretty. It's like, no, let's get Averill in here. Let's get Bennett in here. You're able to get him for a discount because of some of the market conditions that existed at that time. But doesn't mean that you can't do it again. Wu-Tang Financial. I'm not jazzed about Darnold, but I think we're heading in the right direction. These should be strong, but I think we're going to need another receiver and a quarterback. Really hoping Milroe meets his potential. I think that's a fair take, Wu-Tang. Fair take. It's great to see you in the house, bro. But I think that's a fair take. Darnold's got to prove it, man. He's only had 1 year of doing it. I think you're going to do a lot to kind of minimize the need for him to carry as much. But with that said, you can't hide a quarterback. They got to come out there and they got to do the job. They've got to make the throws. They got to make the reads. They got to play clean and under control. And there's been times with Darnold that all four of those things we've seen a time in his career all at once crumble and fall away. So hopefully he can keep it up. Mr. Isaac, yo, Brando, if Darnold is ass this year, would you package picks and move up to get a quarterback next year or let it ride? Milroe is still a relative unknown. He could be a boom, though. My opinion on this would be that I suppose, can never have too many real talented quarterbacks, but I think that you kind of make your bed this offseason with this. And Mr. Isaac, what I mean by that is that you give Darnold a 3-year contract that while it does give you an out after year one, you kind of have signed yourself up for 2 years of this experience. You gave Drew Lock a 2-year contract. You've drafted Jalen Milroe. I think what you've done here is set the stage to say, we're going to trust in one of these three quarterbacks essentially, or that essentially Darnold or Milroe will rise up and be enough for us to get up over the top. And my estimation on the quarterback situation in next year's draft is something along the lines of this. I think that there's going to be a minimum of 3 quarterbacks in next year's draft, Mr. Isaac, who are going to be better than Cam Ward, who would have all gone number 1 overall if they had been out in this year's draft. I think there's a lot of NFL teams that know exactly what I know on this. A lot of NFL teams that are high on Drew Aller and high on Cade Klubnik, and maybe Arch comes out and we get another guy or two out. But I also think that that's part of why teams were willing to kind of punt on this year's quarterback class to wait into next year's class. And that there's already a variety of other teams that are going to be in a position to supersede us, Mr. Isaac, to getting a quarterback in next year's class. The Rams, for instance, are going to be sitting on 2 first-round picks, and hell, it might be a top 10, top 5 pick from the Falcons that they get as one of those other first-round picks to go get their quarterback of the future. And yes, that is exactly what they will target. I mean, they were almost ready to pivot off Stafford this offseason. The Giants, the Jets, not likely to be good, either of them, both likely to be looking at one of those quarterbacks. So kind of what I'm getting to on this, Mr. Isaac, is I don't think that there's really an ability for you to get one of those top-end quarterbacks next year anywhere. I think that's why Schneider did the math on this one with making these moves now, is he was well aware that the cost was going to be incredibly high and that his team was not going to be bad enough next year to be picking low enough just to organically be able to land one guy that way. So it's a bit of advanced math, I think, that's been done on this one. I would have, Mr. Isaac, kind of been in the camp where you would have been in to kind of have wanted to look at the quarterback of the future and look for one that you can draft high, that's very highly talented. But the team just decided that they didn't want to take this road with it, I don't think, by all the indications that they've given. And I think just the final point I'd say on this is that in taking Milroe, You're taking him as a project. You're taking him not to make an assessment of him within the first year, in my opinion. Understanding he's a project, understanding that there's a lot of rough roads we've got to hone, and we've got to get the concrete laid, and this is going to take a couple years. So if you make that assessment on him off of just 1 year of, we just don't see it, well, it was a bad pick then, or you're not giving it enough time then from a Hawks management standpoint, Mr. Isaac, on that one. So I say you've made your bet on this. You got to kind of lay in it at this point, and that's just sort of how I see it for those reasons. Maybe there's a quarterback that comes onto the market next year that you can trade for. Maybe there's a Burrow that comes onto the market. Maybe there's a Trevor Lawrence that comes onto the market. Things can change in that way, but if it kind of fits to form, I think this is the way that it's going to kind of play out. Catalyst's pass rush would be lethal with Hendrickson. Just don't like his ability in the run defense. You definitely are probably going to limit him in run defense as much as you can. I would say to that, but you're right. He'd be a grade A pass rusher. Grade A. Oh, I was Wu-Tang. I was referring to you. I said Mr. Isaac. Oh no, it was you. I got that right. Check your cleats. I just stepped in Purdy. Maybe I'll try to get that up on my store, Jonas. Alpha sucks. There's always a possibility Trent Williams ends up hitting the wall? Absolutely, man. Or an injury. One injury, he gets hit. Does he call it a day? Hammy act up or bicep, I'm done. I think it'd go something like that. Martin says, I know we all want the wow factor type football, and I think we'll get there right now. I want a mean, nasty defense and a methodical, functional offense that gives us a team that churns out wins. Let's go, man. Me as well. And you're right. We'll get there. King Bomber Arch Manning next year, the Seahawks. One can dream. One can dream. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey's like Trent. Just those guys have played a lot of football in their careers, going back to college. And they're kind of getting to that line. And the Niners have stretched this thing out like taffy. That part of taffy where you first stretch it out, still pretty thick. And then you get out about a foot of pulling that taffy out, and that thing's leaned out. You got lines in it and stuff. Technically, the taffy's still connected, right? But one more good pull, and that thing is going to snap at both ends. It's kind of where the Niners and somewhat of the Rams, they're a little bit of a better situation, kind of find themselves in. Seattle says, my dad has Achilles tendonitis right now, and you bet how much worse that would be for McCaffrey with having that in both legs. It's in such a scary injury. You see with, why McCaffrey held out last year and why they didn't try to even play him. Not to mention he got injured when you did bring him out there, but look what happened to Halliburton, and a lot of these basketball players. It's like you get that tendonitis, you get those little micro tears. You don't want to mess with it. It's like, shut it down. Just shut it down. Wu-Tang, Milroe is a low-risk, high-possible reward pick. Smart GM by Schneider. Yes, sir. Those are the type of risks that are smart ones to take. Definitely took him at the right spot in the draft, that's for sure. Yeah, he wasn't as explosive last year, Catalyst. And he hasn't looked, I don't know if he's going half speed this offseason, but he hasn't looked back to his normal self even this offseason either. Kind of weird how they used Mason last year. They were so hesitant throughout Mason's time there in San Francisco to use him, and kind of strangely so, because Mason is the type of archetype back that the Shanahan system tends to prefer. Seth says Trent's going to retire with his guaranteed money like Darnold. I've been thinking that's going to happen too, Seth. I've been wondering if he's just getting ready to, he's what he's going to do is kind of dine and dash on this season. So right now he's at OTAs. He's showing up for every practice, No, I'm here. I'm committed. I'm fully committed. It's going to be a career renaissance. I want to play till I'm 40 years old. This is how it's going to be. I want to play forever. You're hearing me, right? Everyone's hearing me. I'm going to want to play forever. Oh, nothing can stop me, right? And a couple weeks later, my hammy. I don't know, coach. I wanted to play forever. I wanted that. Wu-Tang says CMC has those city miles on him in Carolina. And he's got the last give it a good ball likely had. It's city miles. A good way of putting it. I might steal that one. Wu-Tang. Jay Melfair, only took him at the right spot if we give him some time to develop. I feel good about the gamble. Very well said, Melfair. That's why you've heard with me too. I'm a bit of a repeater on this one where it's like, give him the time. Can't rush him out there too fast. Can't rush the assessment too quickly. Got to let him have that time to let this thing fully mature to see if it can get to where he has as far as that upside goes. But it's going to take the work in the background. There's some quarterbacks you look at and you say, maybe I'd want to get him starting instantaneously, get him reps, get him rolling, get him going, and get him as much time and action as I can, and he will get better from that. Other guys, you say, no, you get him out there playing too early, too often, and he's just going to lean into his bad habits. Those bad habits are going to get reinforced. He's not going to correct them. He's not going to, relearn new muscle memory, which is the best way to do it. And then you're on the pathway to basically, breaking a quarterback / not getting them developed to where you want to get them developed to. Yeah, Mason was good. He was catalyst. The only thing that stopped him in that first game was, remember, he got an AC joint in his shoulder halfway into that game, or he might have run for 150, 170 on us in that game. Yeah. Catalyst says, why did they re-sign him? No idea. The Vikings will love him with aging Aaron Jones. Niners had a you ain't spending money clause going on this offseason. They ate not just a little bit of money. I mean, we've eaten a lot of dead money in recent years, the Russ deals and all of on top of what you're reading on with that. The Rams, 2 years ago, had $7 million of dead money they were eating. But this year, the Niners are like at $80 million, and they still might make a Brandon Ayuk move prior to the start of the season. They just said, we're not spending money on anybody. And when you're already spending as much money as you are on McCaffrey, I would say too as well, you got already a team that's littered with guys you're paying at the top of the position, and then you pay your running back as the top of the position in the sport. There's no more ducats left over to then make a significant contract on your number 2 running back. You've definitely shot your wad at that point. Herbicide Anthony Richardson, yep, great. That's another great name to throw in the mix that might be out there as an available guy too. It's possible there. Catalyst says Milroe gets so much hype from the national media. Give him some time. He has a chance to be special. Give him time, man. Give him time. Let him sit in the background. Let him work on his game. Let him learn from some of these vets and Locke and Darnold. Bring him along right. Schneider used that Packer way that's worked 3 times over for the last 3 quarterbacks that you have churned through that location. Jonas says, after 200,000 miles on a turbo Porsche into city. Phoebe Hawksnest, do you think Darnold run awareness can get to a place like Hurts? Because I say some plays last year when I was yelling, like, run, dude, run. No, he's got a bit of the Geno symptom thing going on where he's got very capable legs and he can scramble around, but that he gets so locked in on sometimes wanting to throw that he will turn down the ability to go and take some easy yards. And it frustrates the hell out of me too, man. I've seen it with a lot of quarterbacks in recent years that do it. Russ kind of did it at the end here too, where it's like, just take the 7-8 yards. Just take it. Take the freebie. But last year, there's a play I can remember with Darnold in particular, the first Rams-Vikings game, Thursday Night Football, I believe, or Monday Night Football, I forget which one. It is Thursday night. And they're down in the game. It's game starting to get leaned down. Darnold's driving down to the Rams side of the field. It's a 3rd and I think 5. He steps up in the pocket, breaks the pocket to the front side. It clears out. He's got a linebacker in front of him on a running back. He's stepping up the line of scrimmage. The first down is there for him to get. This is one of the last drives of the game. They're going to have an opportunity to go and get the win. And he's walking right up the line of scrimmage. And just as he's about to cross the line of scrimmage, he throws this haphazard back across his body throw that wildly misses the running back from 7 yards away when he had that free, just go take the first down run. So there is some of that on him with it. These quarterbacks just sometimes don't like to scramble and run around like that, but you got to take the easy yards when they're there. You got to do it. HHG says, what is dead money? Is it just disappears into the ether? No. Dead money is money that counts on your books but is not going to a player that is any longer on your roster. So last year, we released Jamal Adams. So all of Jamal Adams' remaining bonus money accelerated and counted instantaneously on our salary cap. So you have the base salary you signed him for, minus all of that bonus money that was still left over. Then what's left over of that money then essentially is taken off of your salary cap. So the Niners this year have something like $80 million in dead money being paid to players that are no longer on their roster. Randy, are you doing a roundtable Tuesday? Have a great vacation. Thank you, Randy. Looking forward to doing this, having a little bit of fun. I don't know if we are or not. I think we were going to do an every other week thing here. So technically next week we would be due to do a roundtable. We might be doing that. I will get that notification out to you guys if we do. Seth, listen, I'm not sold on how they said that the Vikings had good O-line play. Sam had a high pressure rate and did well against the blitz. Yeah, it's a bit of the tale between two seasons with him, Seth. There's a difference in how that offensive line played through the first 10 games of the season versus how that offensive line played through the back half of the season. And you have to kind of look at it through those two different measurements. But Sam didn't. It's the lazy narrative on him that just bad against the blitz, bad when he gets pressured. It's a little bit more nuanced. It's a little bit more detail driven of an answer than that. And he actually did a pretty good job when you look at the bottom line pressure rate, sack rate that he did have to deal with, Seth. Saying nothing of, like you say, how he dealt with the blitz when he was blitzed. Mr. Isaac, I've been able to listen to more live streams because I'm on paternity leave. Second daughter was born on the 19th. Congratulations, Mr. Isaac. Another 12 into the fan base. That always brings a smile to my face. I'm glad you're able to catch the streams too, my man. You guys seem to be pretty happy here too with the daily streams we've been doing on this, so we're going to definitely keep that up once we get into the season. Alpha says Anthony Richardson was failed by the coaches for sure. No reason he shouldn't have been there. Well, part of why, if you wonder for me why I'm going to be so ardent on saying Jalen Milroe needs to sit for 2 years, anybody that followed this channel knows that what I said about Anthony Richardson is a lot of the same things I would have said about Milroe coming out. Highly talented, all the talent in the world, in fact. But the elemental part to developing this particular player will be to give him the 2 years to develop. He's really young. He's got things he needs to fix and correct. And you can't be doing that when you're trying to lead an NFL team and you're trying to go out there and win at every NFL game and you've got coaches with their jobs on the line. It just doesn't create the right conditions for you to be able to get that quarterback in a position to actually develop properly. Some QBs can do it that way, but not all. And the QBs that are cut from the cloth of a Richardson or a Milroe, in my opinion on this, being that there's just a lot to correct. There's a lot to correct from processing. There's a lot to correct from mechanics. And the mechanics one is really, as much as anything, the big driver of my reasoning on this, because I see a lot of quarterbacks who need mechanics cleaned, who if you put them back on the field early in their career, they just throw the mechanic cleanliness process out the door. And they just fall back into all the old habits and here we go. And it's locked in. And that was the case with Anthony, is he needed that 2 years. And did the Colts give him that? No, they give him about 5 games because this is what stupid ass NFL teams do. They have a plan and then they can't stick to the damn plan. Why? Like, what was he going to do in that rookie year for you? What were you? He's going to be just amazing in that rookie season. Like, get your head out of your butt, Colts. And dude, don't stop, don't fail the kid. You're failing him with this approach. But that's how NFL teams can get with this. And this is why I will harp so hard on saying, Milroe, give him that time. I know we're excited about him. I know we're all hopeful for him, but just give him that amount of time to develop because there's a lot he needs to get kind of cleaned up in the background. Catalyst says, God, Richardson's accuracy to the flat is the worst I've ever seen. Absolutely horrible. It's a new thing we're seeing with some of these quarterbacks now where, to your point on this, where it's they can sling a post route 30 yards down the field and throw it into a mailbox, but they can't hit a swing throw to the flat. They'll miss that by 10 yards. And you go, what is going on? How did that become a hard throw? Hey, Joss, they spent money on Juszczyk. I have a conspiracy theory that the Niners cut him and then re-signed him because Kubiak made him an offer. Laughing out loud. I guess it's possible they could have. They didn't give him a lot of money. But to your point on that, you still had the dead money from his other deal, and then you gave him the new money on top of that. So there is that. I think the part with this to consider as well with the Niners and Juszczyk is that they are a team that needs their fullback. They're in really studying the Kubiak offense. It's really kind of the light bulb went on for me where I'm like, oh man, the fullback's not just kind of a part that you kind of work into this offense. Like it's there. It's there a lot. So that may have been a bit of it too there with it. But you never know. Maybe we did. Maybe we pushed the price up there by that way. That'd be cool if it was that case. Kevin Mullen, thank you for the $5 donation, Kevin. Hendrickson talk. If we pull the trigger, that means 2 of Nwosu, Hall, Mafe combo out, plus large contract and over 30. I'm out. More 14-person content. More 14 personnel? I think you mean 14 personnel. Yeah, it's probably going to be, I don't know if you'd have both of the edges included in there. I don't know if you'd be moving 2. I can't think of the last deal that would have been like that kind of. I mean, it's possible. Certainly is. I think it's definitely at least one of those guys that's costing you for sure. And then another draft pick on top of it. But you touch on why I'm not in on the Hendrickson thing either, Kevin, and why I find myself saying I'd rather go a different route is because he's over 30. I got to pay him $35 million a year. I got to give up substantial draft capital and a player in addition to this to get the deal done. It just seems like a pretty high cost for a guy pretty far along in his career. And it just doesn't align out right. If you got him at a discount or something like that, maybe it could make some sense there with it. But I would just say, nah, not where our team's at, not where we're at from a development stage. If I'm a team trading for Hendrickson, I want to be a team like the Philadelphia Eagles where I stand. I want to be a team like the Detroit Lions. You know a little bit more of where you are at, really, truly, as a team, more than you're kind of having a little bit of the guesswork there as it goes. So I think your logic and reason is pretty sound on that one, Kevin. I do for sure. Besides, ideally, we should trade Chenna and pick for Hendrickson or Micah. Micah would be interesting. He'd be interesting. Jonas, so Schneider is way more shrewd. And unless a knucklehead rookie general manager overpays, it's fair to say he is typically in the ballpark with his negotiating. Yeah. And he's got a line. I think John's definitely shown in the past in letting players walk that there is a line. Shaquille Griffin, there was a line. DJ Reed, you wanted to re-sign him, but the Jets blew your off route a bit. We had a situation, I think, even this last year that kind of happened in a certain way. So he's definitely not a guy to overpay. He will reward his players. They're certainly willing to throw contracts out as much as anyone and put money on the table as much as any NFL franchise. But he's not going to go to crazy town with it. Besides, Micah looks most appealing to me. We are almost into July. The Micah Parsons contract has still not been signed. We have not heard about any breakthroughs on negotiations. It's a situation to track and monitor, Herbicide. These things can twist quickly. Grandizer Brando, Fear the Walking Dead money. Opal as well. Thank you for the deep dive into the Seahawks secondary. Do you have a prediction of where that unit could rank? Top 5, top 10, other? Oh, it's a top 5 unit in my opinion. You have in Woolen, that's a top 20 corner. In Witherspoon, I think that's a top 7 corner in this sport as it stands right now. You've got some pretty good depth in there with the Grip and with the Job. A couple of youngsters in the mix on that there. Emma Wari works in as a big nickel. And then your safety room's really nice. Top 20 safety in Kobe Bryant. Top 6 safety in Julian Love. So you may not have like the Kyle Hamilton, like just buzzsaw, but you are solid all across the board, do very above solid, and say nothing of a guy like Woolen goes out in a contract year and really balls out, takes his game up another notch, gets him 7, 8, 9 interceptions. You know, what that does in addition to that secondary, if he can do that on top of it. So it's right there, Grandizer. It could be as good as any in this sport. Some of it's, though, still that potential that's just a little bit unrealized. Like most of it's been realized, but just a little bit unrealized. If they can tap into that, you're on your way. King Bomber, how would you feel if you had a kid that became a 49er fan? Well, you hear those stories about people taking their pets out to the woods and then they open their car door and they let them out and then they just drive away. I'm not saying I would do it to him as a baby. I'll raise him for a while. but it will probably, I would have to release him right around the Spartan Children timeline of things. You guys remember the opening of 300 where they're like showing that, and then you throw the kid out in the wild naked, and if he can fend for himself and he comes back, you throw him back out in the wilderness, because I'm not going to have a Niner fan in my family, okay? That's just not happening. We have a lot of no-go areas in our life that, some of us have few. One of my no-go areas is that I will not have kin that are going to be Niner fans. It's unacceptable. It's kind of against God's plan, really. So, some of you may call it cold-blooded, but look, this is all hyperbolic anyway, because I don't have a kid. So y'all don't have to worry. You don't have to go check with child services. All right. This is all hypothetical. But King, that's a no-go place for me. Okay. You're touching a real soft spot there, making me think about the child that I didn't have that's a Niner fan. Why are you making me go to that dark place, man? A.A. Josh said, much rather we stay lean on cap obligations so we have the freedom to spend that money re-signing our own picks. Fair points with that, Josh. Fair points with that. And I think that you definitely want to have an eye with this money that you have to being able to put some extensions out on the books. I think you can do a bit of both. I don't think it has to be all of one or the other on this one. I think that there's money here when you're sitting on the kind of cap that they are sitting on both now and into the future to be able to align for both if you really want to. So I think they're in a position to do both. But it's a fair point to say as well. I want to make sure we're not losing any of these youngsters that we want to get in extensions. Be it, maybe Walker after this year. You got Cross, you got Mafe on deck, Woolen potentially too. Jonas says, make him pan for gold until he realizes he's spending more on tools and equipment. Hey, Drew Lock was a low-key excellent pre-draft signing. I agree, man. Especially because it now does help free you up to let Milroe sit. If Milroe's sitting as your backup, it's like there's more of that itchy trigger finger to try to get him out there at times. Whereas now you can just roll with Lock and call it a day on that. Martin says, if the team invests the 2 years into developing Milroe, we could end up with our starting quarterback for up to the next 10 years. If it doesn't work out, we used a third-round pick to try and make it happen. Yeah, and even on that, I would say that if that played out that way, Martin, you also then still got some productivity out of him in using him on some of these snap count things. Because I do disagree. I wouldn't say that it's the same thing. Running him out there for 7-8 snaps a game to run him in kind of a read option role is not the same thing of trying to put him out there as a starter week in and week out, too young in his career. I think you can afford to give him some of those snaps here and there to get his feet wet, but also get some productivity out of him, Martin, then get some, something out of him then at that point, even if he then ends up down the road as a guy that can't be the starter. And so that's where, again, there's even some safety to this pick as much as there is some risk. There's some safety in that you're going to get some returns back from him because of that. Kevin Mullen, thank you for another $5 donation. Kevin says, Jonas Doyle wipes from the back to the front. Jeez. What are we going to Jonas for? What other NFL team, question, what other NFL team is deep at tight end? We in the top 5? Love the non-shows. We are... we're definitely a top 5 rated tight end unit as it stands. And most teams you go through this league are sitting on 1, maybe they have 2. Rams got Higbee, and then they've got Parkinson, and they've got the kid they took out of Oregon, Ferguson. Which would I rather have as a 3 stack? I'd probably take what we've got over that. But maybe it's close on that one. You could maybe say it's close. Bill's got a pretty good tight end room. The Raiders, they're sitting there with a couple of guys that are really good. Bowers is a difference maker for the position. We're probably top 5. Bears got Cole Kmet, and they drafted Colston Loveland. I think top 5's fair. We got 3 real legit dudes. I don't know if I'd say top 3, but I definitely say top 5. Appreciate you, Kevin. Thank you for that, man. What'd Jonas do? What'd Jonas do, man? Jonas is good people. Oh, yeah, I see where he went after you said, Jonas said, this Kevin guy keeps assuming we'll have to overpay and pay him contract. I wouldn't assume anything. Ah, I see. Outdoors for Life. Thanks for the $2 donation. Did Emma Wari get paid yet? I didn't think I saw him sign his contract yet. Maybe. What are you doing, Zena? Looks like it's still a little bit delayed. They'll get the contract done before training camp, though. Outdoors. It's usually just the guaranteed money thing that kind of factors in on this type of stuff. Agents pushing for more than the team wants to give out on that. But they'll get it figured out before training camp. Seth is disowned immediately. Better move back to Washington so it doesn't happen. I don't have no kids, so I'm good. I'm already getting the niece and the nephew on Hawks. We're going to get them on the channel here this year at some point, but they're already hawked up. So I'm taking care of business. I would never let this happen in my family. Adam Bombs is my older brother's a Niner fan. Shit talk is real. It can get dicey, man, I bet. It can get dicey and it can get real. Jonas says I'd respond to Kevin, but he probably... Hey, Josh, I just found out yesterday that the entire second round draft class is holding out on signing contracts, 30 of the 32 picks. The only 2 who signed got their guaranteed contracts. Thoughts? It's guaranteed money. Everything's slotted in. This was first the issue with the first round picks driving this. So a couple of years ago, we had Devin Witherspoon hold out through the first week of training camp because it was about the guaranteed money in the contractual language of the deal. It wasn't about the total money. It wasn't about how much he was going to make year in and year out. It was about the guaranteed nature of the money within the contract. So I'm pretty sure what's gone on here, Joss, is that the agents looking for the ways that they can benefit a client better than another agent will go to player A and they'll say, hey, your agent, you Mr. Second round pick, he's not going to get you guaranteed money in this deal for your second round contract. After the first year, a team can do whatever the hell they want to do with you. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get you half. I'm going to get you 75% of that money guaranteed. And then every agent starts trying to say the same spiel to the same teams, and you end up with 30 of 32 second round contracts now with teams going, look, we've never done guaranteed money to second round picks. Well, you'd never done guaranteed money to first round picks, but then you guys did it, didn't you? And so there's a little bit of that impasse then because of this. But as we get closer to training camp, as sort of that starts to push some of the time clock up, I think you'll see some of these kind of kick free on this a little bit. And NFL and the Players Association is probably eventually going to have to kind of come to some inroads on this. There was a whole story that blew up this past week about the collusion having to do with quarterback contracts being guaranteed. So this is a little bit of maybe the next problem that the NFL is going to have to kind of get around or figure out. But it will get solved at some point soon. It just kind of comes down to that. So there's no way for those agents to tell those guys like, hey, you're taking the second round, I'll get you a much better contract than this other agent because the money's slotted. You know, you're not going to make more money than the money slotted for those picks. So the way to separate yourself is that guaranteed money. Telling your client, I'll get it all guaranteed for you. I'm surprised B actually read it. I didn't realize what I was reading until I got to the end of it. Herbicide says cards always talking like they're better than us too. I just think it's cope for them at this point. You know, you look at that empty, dusty trophy case, starts making you, a lot of mirages out in those deserts, Herbicide, a lot of things you think you're seeing that you're not actually seeing. It's just the cope. That's all it is. Joseph Jones, Lenore got arrested. He did indeed. All that tough talk. King Bomber, only 2 only 2 of the 30 seconds. Second round picks of sign. Makes sense. I know why agents are doing this. Once you got all the agents to clear out guaranteed money for all first round contracts, it's a natural progression to then move on to the second round contracts and see if you can get away with that. Agents are going to push the line as much as they can. It'll be interesting to see how many of these guys actually get to a place, though, of you being willing to have them miss training camp as a second round pick. So one thing is a first round pick to say, well, I got 5 years, I got the time. To have the guts to be able to hold out as a second round pick, we'll see on that one. King Bomber says, rumor was that Shock wanted a fully guaranteed deal and everyone behind him is waiting for his contract to happen to set a baseline for their negotiations. Oh, it's pretty bold of Shock to ask for that with his injury history. I don't know if I'd be wanting to give that out if I was the Saints, especially with their cap situation. The Saints are the one team, King Bomber, that's not trying to put any guaranteed money on their books. He went to the wrong team for that. But I also, with that guy's injury history, would you want to sign him to a guaranteed deal? No, thank you. Grandizer Brando, thanks for taking my question. You have a safe and enjoyable vacay time off? Say it. Just kidding. I need to go to the store, but that heat outside, nah. It's getting hot out there, man. We're actually just perfect here in San Diego, so it's been just ideal. But I know it's been burning up in the rest of this country. It's been going crazy town. But thanks, man. We'll have a good little bit of time off here. 2021 season was depressing, Joseph. We're on to better times now, though. We're on to brighter days, to more beautiful days. And we got ourselves 2 hours in here today, so we will put a bit of a button on this one. If you can do me that favor, I know I always ask, but it is a big deal. It does help this channel out. I show up on those algorithms when you guys hit that like button. It tells YouTube to show me to other people looking for Seahawks content. It's just as simple as bloody well that. We are going to be doing just a little bit of a break here over the next couple of weeks here on the Hawks channel. That doesn't mean a break as far as content. I've got some shorts I've been working on in the background. I'm going to try to produce a little bit of content for you guys that'll be more upload based. But we'll be kind of in and out as far as the live stream shows for the next couple of weeks as we've kind of covered the topics I wanted to cover this off season and really looking exhaustively at the Seattle Seahawks team of what they were last year, where the players were at, where the scheme was at, how we've operated from the front office standpoint and spending money and the moves we have made, the moves that we could make, looking at this team for the upcoming year and what we expect from them and what needs to happen for this team to find success. So now it's just all about the rubber meeting the road and us seeing the actualization of this team and what they can be here as we're going to be getting closer and closer here into training camp in the next couple of weeks. So we will be keeping up with the uploads. I'm going to be doing a little bit of time off there, just recharging the batteries, getting the content prepped up a little bit here for the regular season for you, and we'll still keep the videos rolling down the line on that side of it. We might have a NFC West roundtable we pop into here in the next week or two as well, so be on the lookout for that here on the channel as we will keep that motor going on that side of it. I thank you guys for riding with me here throughout this off season. It has been another great year on the Hawks Nest. It was another great off season for us, where you guys stayed connected here. The memberships hung in there and you kept the membership program going. We'll be doing another call-in show there for members here within the next about week or two as well. So you can be on the lookout for that if you're a member of the channel. But I do thank you guys for that support, the patrons as well as steady over there on that side of it. We've got a lot of people over there. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member. We do call-in shows. We'll be doing Thursday Night Football during the season. A lot of good benefits, PFF scores after the game. A lot of good benefits that go with you with being a member of this channel. I really do appreciate it. Or being a patron as well, as the membership benefits are very much the same and they will continue to expand as we go in the future. But your guys' support keeps the lights on, allows me to do this full time, even after we've gone far beyond the season, finishing and coming to a conclusion. And I really want to thank you guys for that. I have a lot of fun. This is my dream to be able to do this and cover this team and every day in the detail I'm able to cover it with and go with it over with you guys in that way. And it's you guys that allow me to do that with that support here. It's not ad revenue does it. We don't have any sponsorship programs really rolling through here. It is your guys' support specifically that allows us to kind of carry that through. And we got through another off season here of being able to do that on the back of you guys aiding us through on that. So I really, really thank you guys for that. I know we're in a tough time economically right now as far as things go. So it's no small thing. You guys show that support here to me. And you guys do all the things we ask, hit the like button, subbing on up and doing all that good stuff. I really from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it. And thank you guys for an amazing off season. It's been really fun covering this team and what we've been doing. So we will be back in a couple weeks We got a great donation here to finish this off right. I look forward to just having another fully awesome season with you guys. I've got some big plans on deck here for you guys with it. One other note here before I get to Josh's donation. I am on the lookout. I'm trying to find somebody that's a season ticket holder right now who is not going to be going to a training camp practice in late July, like the 30th of July, because it's a training. I'm going to be in Seattle, by the way, for you guys. People have been asking on this too. I am coming to training camp for a couple of days. I'll be there for the scrimmage. I'll be there for one training camp practice. I'm trying to go to another one. But if you have season tickets and you're not going to that practice, I'm just trying to get a code that I can utilize to be able to go to that practice on that day and be able to go and check out an extra practice if I can pull it off. So if you happen to have season ticket hold and you're not going to a practice on that, please do hit me up offline, heyhawksnest@gmail.com, or you can DM me over on Twitter, either way. But do please reach out to me on that because I'd love to do that. We're going to be doing probably a meet and greet situation too when I come to town. So I will be letting you guys know about that. But I will be in town in Seattle in July 30th. And I'll be giving you guys a good ample heads up on that about what the plan is and how we're going to roll with that. Probably be out at Dino's Bar or something up in that area up in kind of more of the, we'll do more of the south end this year. We did a little bit of the north end last year. So we'll mix it up a little bit. But I'll keep you guys abreast on that, keep you guys attuned on that, and let you guys know. A.A. Joss, thank you for the $10 donation. A.A. Joss, a longtime contributor to this channel. And as I say, many of you guys dropped one donation. I know you've dropped many before, that you have shown a lot of support and love to this channel many, many, many times over. A.A. Joss, I really, really do thank you for that. He says, thanks for the stream. Well, thank you guys. You guys could be anywhere watching anything, doing anything. You got endless options in this day and age as far as entertainment goes. But you choose to watch this channel. You choose to click on me. And I really, really do thank you. You're letting a guy go and chase his dreams, do what he gets to do and love most. And it's just been a hell of a ride being able to do this channel now as we move through our 6th year here on this channel. Rolling strong. We're just getting warmed up. And we're going to keep going hot this upcoming season. So ride with me, and hopefully onto a championship trail. You have put the conditions together. You got the lighter fluid, you got the kindling, we got a little bit of the wool in there, okay? It's all right there, right? We just need that steady wind to come through to let it light and ignite and let that thing take off and go like a forest fire ripping and tearing through this NFL. It's there. It could happen this year. So yeah, I know a lot of the national perspectives telling you as a Seattle Seahawks fan, don't dream big. Your team ain't going to be jack that. Your team ain't going to do nothing. But that's just a lot of empty talk. It's a lot of empty coward talk is what I hear from them. I think they're a little bit scared. I think they don't like it when the Seahawks team's about to go be great again. They don't want that at all. They want those East Coast teams good, but we're on the rise. We're riding back. So keep the faith, my fellow Seahawks fans. Dream big for this upcoming NFL season. But by all else, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.